Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Pirates, I have unlimited skill points. Chapter 41. There is nothing to say this night. The two of them are considered to be in the water. When Hina took off her shy coat, she also became crazy. The two didn't know when they slept, but it should be very late. It might be almost noon the next day. Hina only woke up from her sleep. She was awakened by urine, but when she opened her eyes, she found Luoshu was behind her, holding her firmly. The even breathing sound showed that he was still asleep. Although Luoshu didn't say anything, it seemed that Ain's departure still made him feel a little bit scared. He earned a bit and found that he didn't break away. Hina didn't say much, just turned her body around and looked behind her. Luoshu, who was sleeping, she also held Luoshu's head against her Hun's mouth, but it may be because of the existence that Hina can't describe. Some of them are too strong. Luoshu is a little panting. Can't get angry, so it didn't take long before he woke up in a daze. The two looked at each other. Luoshu was nothing, but Hina's face turned red. Hina is going to the bathroom. He slapped Luoshu's hand and let him let it go. Then Hina went directly to the bathroom. When she was sitting on the toilet, the bathroom door was opened again. Then she saw Luoshu yawning. Hongguo walked in from outside with her body, took apart a disposable toothbrush, plugged in the water, and started brushing her teeth directly. Hey, Hina is still in the bathroom, can't you wait a while? Luoshu gave Luoshu a look, and Hina said shamefully. Hey, why are you shy? We didn't try anything last night. Luoshu said calmly and waved to Hina with a smile. Cut. Looking at Luoshu's look that a dead pig is not afraid of boiling water, Hina's face became even redder, and she snorted inwardly. She found that her original bottom line seemed to be retreating quickly at this time. Even disappearing. I have to admit that sometimes the opposite gender is indeed the only factor that makes people grow up. For example, now, she really doesn't seem to care about Luoshu's existence. By the way, in a moment, you go and retire your room. Hearing Luoshu's toothbrush is ready, Hina thought for a while and said to Luoshu. Why, do you really want to try it on Ingrid? Luoshu was taken aback when he heard Hina let him check out. Is it going too fast? Hey, Hina is saving you some money. Hearing Luoshu's words, Hina couldn't help but sipped at him, and then raised her face with pride. Seeing Hina's cute look, Luoshu also walked over and hugged her directly. What are you doing? Hina was picked up by Luoshu in a burst of exclamation. At this time, she was again shown in front of Luoshu, who was mixed with Hongguo. Na s% biao. I, to commend you for your sensibility, reward you. With a smile, he kissed Hina on the cheek, and Luoshu hugged her and returned to the room directly, circa skeptical smiley face greater than. When Luoshu and Hina got up for breakfast, it was already noon. Looking at Ingrid's smile, Hina said that it's impossible not to be shy, but Ingrid didn't mean to tease her, because in fact, when Luoshu and her first started, let alone get up at noon and at night. At all times. It's really because of that kind of thing, it's really addictive. After lunch, Luoshu and the others left a room, and then the three of them did not go out, because today Hina was not too convenient and did not go to training. Instead, they lay on the big hotel bed to rest. Don't get me wrong, it's really resting. Although Luoshu's physical fitness is already extremely strong, his waist is not waste, his legs are not painful, but his kidneys can't stand it or he can't stand it. After all, what a man cannot describe takes time to generate. Although he was not hollowed out, he was almost there. So rest when it's time to rest. Now Anjali is lying on the bed, Luoshu is lying on Anjali's body, and Hina is lying on his body. The three of them seem to be really harmonious, but just when they are there. While resting, suddenly, Luoshu's door was knocked. As soon as Luoshu's observation hockey passed by, Heshi's outside the door. At this time there is a person standing there. This person is a woman, tall, and quite explosive, with yellow hair neatly combed behind his head, wearing a pair of glasses, wearing an OL outfit. It's the fishnets, it seems a bit too explicit. Who? Hina asked, seeing the puzzled look on Luoshu's face. I don't know, it's a woman. The one dressed up is called Zhaoyan. After thinking about it, Luoshu came up with a word, and said with some uncertainty. A charming woman. Hina, go and take a look. Upon hearing Luo Shu's explanation, Hina's eyebrows also picked up. It's not that Luo Shu provokes someone outside. She jumped off the bed and Hina came to the door. After opening the door, a coquettish woman was standing at the door, which made Hina's brows raised. What's the situation? Hello, you are Colonel Hina. My name is Khalifa. I am Mr. Bingshan's secretary. Mr. Bingshan went to a nearby island yesterday to guide the start of a new construction site. He came back this morning and learned that Luo Shu Commodore and Colonel Hina were here. I apologize for not coming to meet you yesterday, so I specially sent me over to take a look. Looking at Hina's gaze, Khalifa smiled, and she saw the doubt and hostility in this Hina's gaze. After all, she came from the intelligence department. She quickly understood a lot of things from this gaze. One of them was that Luo Shu did not recognize their identities, or Luo Shu did not recognize them but did not talk to her. The women said that no matter which one they are, they all represent their identity, and there shouldn't be any threat for the time being. The second is that Luo Shu's private life may not be careful, otherwise, how could his woman become hostile to his stranger? Could it be that Luo Shu also had women come to the door before? Thinking of this, Khalifa's heart couldn't help but smile contemptuously. After all, he was a young man, no matter how strong he was, he seemed to be able to deal with it easily. Oh, hello, Hina is very good here, and Luo Shu is also very good, so don't bother you. Hearing Khalifa's introduction, the doubt and hostility in Hina's eyes disappeared. Since it is Bingshan's secretary, then it's also right to come here. CP9. What are you doing here? If you don't make a good boat for me, why would you still come to me with your heart? And just as the two women were about to have a meaningless and nutritious dialogue, Luo Shu walked out of the room. He came out, glanced at Khalifa. Luo Shu asked her with some doubts. Yes, this woman Luo Shu also had some impressions. You, sure enough. And hearing Luo Shu's words, not only this woman was surprised, but even Hina was stunned. Is this woman CP9? CP9, the full name is Cipher Polno.9, where Pol means police. The literal translation is the secret police. In other words, this organization is just like the CIA, MI6, KGB and so on. It is an organization dedicated to investigating and handling some secret incidents for the world government. CP has a total of 10 organizations, but CP0, the strongest among them, is only subordinate to celestial dragons, and only CP 1 to 9 can be commanded by the world government. There is no distinction between high and low, but the responsibilities and the responsible areas are different. She is CP9. Hina looked at Khalifa with a surprised look upon hearing Luo Shu's words. As a member of Naval Headquarters, she is naturally familiar with this organization. However, although I have always heard about it, this organization is not something she can reach as a colonel, and now looking at Khalifa, she can't help but feel a little surprised. You know, when Luo Shu called out her organization directly, Khalifa was shocked at first, and then looked at him with a serious face. It seemed that Kaku felt right. Luo Shu knows that CP9 is actually very normal. Let's not say that he has read the original book. The chapter of Eni's lobby in the original book was played for a long time, because it also runs through a lot of Robin's memories, which is also Robin. Formally treat them as partners in a battle. Therefore, it is inevitable for Luo Shu to have a deeper memory. At the same time, don't forget that Luo Shu still has a system. His system has its own scouting eye. As long as he can see the other side's portrait clearly, he can see the other's name, power, evil value, and freedom value, justice value. He saw the situation of Khalifa very clearly. However, although CP9 belongs to the world government and the nominal justice sequence, it seems that they have done no less bad things, so the justice value is very low. Speaking of it, the justice value and evil value of this camp are really unfair. As a pirate, no matter how many good things you do, the evil value will not decrease a bit. Only if you do bad things, the evil value will increase. In Marine, doing just things will increase the justice value, but if you see evil things and do not stop it, it will reduce the justice value, and if you do bad things, you will also reduce the justice value, which is really a lot of demands. However, Luo Shu's current justice value is very high. After all, he has defeated the Charlotte Cracker. Charlotte Smokey and Charlotte Kata Curry of the BIGMOMC group, and at the same time killed more than a dozen ships of the MC group. Battleship, thousands of pirates 2 reels. Killed the butler of celestial dragons and the slave hunters. So although he is not too busy and doing too many things, his righteousness value is currently 11,758 scherzo, although this righteousness value is currently not useful. If you know it, you know, what the hell is going on when you come to see us. Luo Shu said with an impatient expression looking at Khalifa who was standing at the door. He is unwilling to deal with people in these agencies, very unwilling. Since you know, can you please tell me how did you know, and now that you are here, are you going to have some impact on our mission? Looking at Luo Shu, Khalifa deeply he took a breath, and then said quietly but firmly that they had been lurking here for a long time for Pluton's design drawings, and they would never give up the task easily. Ah, I heard from a person named Spandam. At that time, I just practiced observation hockey, and inadvertently heard that he revealed your news when he was bragging with someone next to him. As for my mission to you, don't be stupid, tell them to build my boat better, I'm lazy to care about you. Looking at Khalifa disdainfully, Luo Shu said plainly, he was telling the truth, there is no interest in their tasks, and their tasks are simply their own masters. Although Luo Shu feels that he is not under the control of the world government, he is still a friendly unit after all. He does not need to disturb other people's good things. It's the bug again. If that's the case, then I can rest assured, I will leave now. Oh, yes, this news is thankful that you have answered my question just now. At present, you are in the Seven Waters City. A lot of people already know, and now these people are coming here. Hearing what Luo Shu said, Khalifa uttered a secret, then bowed respectfully to Luo Shu, and then said to Luo Shu, "Who is there?" When he heard Khalifa say this, Luo Shu's brows couldn't help but frown. He really didn't think about who he had offended. Apart from BIGMOM, he didn't seem to be any demon in this world. Well, why is someone looking at yourself? As far as I know, there should be guys from the underground world, and the eagle eyes seem to have moved, but on the contrary, it is your biggest enemy. There is no movement on the BIGMOM side. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Khalifa was also serious. Said. Hearing what she said, Luo Shu's mind was also turning quickly. It is understandable that there is no movement on BIGMOM. After all, Luo Shu has defeated 3 of the 4 desert stars. It is useless to send more little friends. If you want to compete with Luo Shu, at least you have to Charlotte Linlin. Come personally, but the 4 emperors will not leave the nest easily. It should be because of Marine's propaganda that Hawkeye finds himself. Luo Shu has also seen Marine's propaganda. Luo Shu is currently being promoted by Marine as the world's #1 swordsman. Hawkeye is definitely going to come over and make a gesture. But the little mice in the underground world are looking for themselves. What is this for? Squinting, Luo Shu really wanted to understand too much, but Khalifa watched Luo Shu enter a state of contemplation, and did not say much, but nodded to Hina, and then left directly. She came this time. Having obtained what she wants to know, she can go. I was thinking about letting you relax this time. It looks like you will have to start training again tomorrow morning. Not long after Khalifa left, Luo Shu let out a sigh and looked at Hina next to him. With Ingrid, he said to the two with a smile. It's natural, Hina likes the feeling of becoming stronger. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Hina naturally knew why Luo Shu wanted them to start training again. Luo Shu has confidence in anyone now, but they bet it is easy to support Luo Shu's hind legs. Although Luo Shu does not require them to practice like the 4 emperors one by one, at least they must be strong enough to protect themselves. Hearing what Luo Shu said, Ingrid on the bed nodded seriously. Don't be so nervous, just take precautions. We will rest as usual today, and we'll talk about everything tomorrow. Seeing the nervousness of the two, Luo Shu smiled and hugged Hina before talking to them. Luo Shu is also looking forward to an excited tonight. How? It was the same bar. Lu Qi sat on the bar and tapped the glass lightly with his hand, facing the code. He said he heard it from Chief Spandam. As for our plan, he has no interest. Khalifa sipped the whiskey in front of him, and said in a deep voice. Whether what he said is true or false. Kaku asked Khalifa as he straightened his hat gently. It should be true, and he hasn't had time to care about us recently, right? Hearing what Kaku said, Khalifa stroked his hair behind his ears, and then said with a smile. Indeed, it may not be long before he will start to be busy. After a sip of the tequila in the glass in front of him, Lu Qi turned around and left directly. It seemed to him that as long as Luo Shu didn't pose a threat to his mission, he didn't care about him. If it would pose a threat, then he didn't mind taking action to avoid future troubles. If Luo Shu knows Lu Qi's thoughts, he will probably be educated, right? Want to kill himself. With CP9's rotten sweet potato stinky bird eggs, is it too pediatric? But at this time Luo Shu doesn't have the time and leisure to care about these guys. Now he is having fun in the room. Men, there will be some emperor plots, awakening the power of the world, drunk lying on the knees of beauty. Although Luo Shu is past the second year of secondary school, he can be very happy with 3 people. Hina is bold enough, and Ingrid's positioning of herself as Luo Shu's person, as long as Luo if Shu doesn't drive her away, she can do anything. Under such circumstances, although the cooperation between the two is the first time, it is quite good. Luo Shu really slept very late tonight. If it weren't for remembering that they would start training tomorrow, Luo Shu didn't even want to sleep. Even so, they were the last to turn off the lights in this hotel except the front desk. At about 10 o'clock in the morning the next day, the 3 men came out of the room. After having breakfast, I asked the guy in the store about where I can train. There is no marine in the city of 7 Waters. Because this is a place, commonly, owned by Marine and the pirates. Pirates also need ships, and so does Marine. With its powerful shipbuilding technology, although the city of 7 Waters is connected to Eni's lobby, there is no Marine stationed here. Therefore, it is impossible for Luo Shu to train in the Marine branch. According to the folks here, if the people here want to practice, they will go to the beaches around the island to train. Because of the shipbuilding here, there are countless discarded materials on many beaches, so there will be some pollution. The fish schools have long since disappeared. There are no fishermen near the capital of 7 Waters. The beaches that tourists will go to are limited to a few beaches. So if you want to practice, just find a beach full of rubbish. Hearing what the dude said, Luo Shu and the others packed their lunch and walked towards the beach. Sure enough, after walking out of the city, Luo Shu and the others came to the beach. Different from the freshness of the sea train and the port, these beaches where no one usually comes are full of broken wood and metal. Fortunately, there is no domestic garbage, so the smell is not too unpleasant. After finding a better place, Luo Shu also instructed the 2 to start practicing. After the 2 entered the state, Luo Shu also sat on a discarded wooden board and began to look at the armament hockey practice guide that Uncle Garp gave him. Hockey, like devil fruit, is a special ability unique to this world. It is different from Conqueror's hockey, which is only 1 in a million people. Armament hockey and observation hockey, everyone can learn. Luo Shu has never thought that he is a son of destiny, so he doesn't care too much about conquerors. This thing is not learned, but inspired, and he does not have hockey in this aspect. Even if he is exhausted, he can't learn it. Yes, it's that simple. And armed color is his main research direction now. According to Uncle Garp's book, armament hockey is actually a kind of energy, which is the same as chakra in Hokage, the spiritual energy in the world of cultivation, and the inner strength in the martial arts world, except for the energy of this world. The emergence of the body is to cover itself and become a layer of armor. Armament hockey also has a certain amount, just like physical strength, it needs to be allocated during battle, but Luo Shu doesn't need to consider these issues. Because as long as he learns, he can directly increase armament hockey to level 99, and directly reach the full level. Will the level 99 hockey not be used enough? Do not make jokes. Believe in your own strength, believe in this power. Hey, how do you feel? Mysterious. Scratching his hair, Luo Shu couldn't help muttering with a headache when he looked at how to get started in the booklet. Sometimes, there are some exercises that are easier for people with simple minds to learn. Because they have the power to believe, but as an older youth in modern society, Luo Shu has actually lost this power for a long time. He does not believe in the words of his colleagues, he does not believe in the words of his own leadership, and even the words of his parents. Believe. Don't refute, just look at your WeChat, parents' circle of friends are the things posted in group chats. Do you believe it? They believe it firmly, and then come to tell you, but do you believe it? Modern society is a society dominated by treachery. All people will doubt, they will only believe what they want to believe, or what they have confirmed. Luo Shu is not a fan, so he has nothing to believe. Now tell him directly that armament hockey is an imaginary power, and it is really difficult for him to accept this, so although his physical fitness is close to the limit of the great swordsman, it is not difficult to learn the true heart of armament hockey. But it is difficult for Luo Shu to imagine what that special force is. In contrast, Ingrid and Hina have been learning armament hockey even with basic physical training. In terms of their progress, they are faster than Luo Shu. When the three of Luo Shu were cultivating there, Luo Shu's eyebrows were suddenly raised, because in his observation hockey, several figures quietly touched the beach and picked up two of them. Screw, Luo Shu flicked out, just fell in front of Ingrid and Hina, let these two people come out of the state of cultivation, and then made a gesture. If someone is in the sky at this time, you will find a group of people slowly approaching the place where Luo them are. The number of this group is definitely not small. There are almost dozens of people, they are gathered together in twos and threes. With the trash on the beach as a shelter, he slowly came towards Luo Shu. From the clothes of these people, it is difficult to tell what occupation these people are, because they are also wearing 5 flower 8 gate, and they are led by 2 big men. This time the two of us will join forces and we will definitely be able to kill Luo Shu. Seeing that his subordinates are slowly approaching Luo Shu, 2 people are lying there quietly about 200 meters away from Luo Shu and the others. Observing, after one of them put down the telescope, he started talking excitedly. Hehehehe, I really don't know how this kid's head is worth 500 million Baileys. And the other person also laughed at this moment. 500 million Baileys, this is a well-deserved huge sum of money, even in terms of exchange rate and purchase rate, it is equivalent to the purchase rate of nearly 20 million soft sister coins. The old saying goes well, the wealth is moving, these people just came over passively. As those people were about to complete their encirclement, the two of them also temporarily put aside their conversation. They were already thinking about how they would kill each other after killing Luo Shu for a while. As time passed, the encirclement was slowly being completed. As the people in place had already drawn out their weapons, the atmosphere solidified in an instant. But at this moment, Hina, who was training in the open space, suddenly disappeared. Before these people could react, people in the distance saw Hina already appearing in the air. She's in the sky. Pointing to Hina in the sky, the people behind couldn't help shouting. And Hina was in the sky at this time, and she let out a sigh of relief, and then showed a joking expression on her face. Tempest kick, chaos. With Hina's cry, countless slashes kicked towards the people below. Hina is indeed a genius, at least it seems to Luo Shu, is more than his physical genius. Marine 6 styles, don't look at Luo Shu's current strength, but it's all because of his cheat relationship. If only relying on the speed of cultivation, he is not as fast as Hina. Hina is nearly a third faster than him, but after learning it, it will be difficult for her to increase her skill level. Just like now, the Tempest Kick Chaos is far worse than Luo Shu in terms of scale, size or strength, but it is far from what these people can carry. The countless blue slashes instantly fell from the air, smashing into the garbage dump where these people were hiding, and instantly screams and stumps of limbs flew around. No, I was found, go straight and kill them. Seeing this scene, the two also jumped out for the first time, and directly yelled and directed their little brother to rush over. Looking at these people who rushed over, Hina was not in a hurry. After landing, she was still willing to light a cigarette again, but looking at Luo Shu's face in the distance, she bit the cigarette hatefully. Luo Shu doesn't like the smell of cigarettes, so if Luo Shu doesn't smoke, she can only quit. At this moment, Ingrid behind her rushed over with a huge sword. Seeing those who rushed over, Ingrid swung the giant sword that was comparable to the door panel in his hand, and instantly these people knew what the power of a giant was. Ingrid's sword, the blade is not very sharp, this is because Luo Shu is afraid that her swordsmanship will not hurt herself before preparing for it, but even if it is not very good, it is also a sword. Almost the moment they contacted, the weapons of those people broke directly, and then the sword was like a ball and stick, and instantly hit this person's mouth. Ingrid's tremendous power was undoubtedly revealed at this time. Even if the sword is not sharp, there is no way to cut these people in two directly, but she can also smash these people out like a ball that has been hit. When these people flew more than 10 meters to the ground, they were already dead and could no longer die. Their Hun's mouth was directly cut in, and their spine and internal organs were directly broken by the huge force, and no one could be saved. Seeing this brutal scene of Ingrid, those who originally shouted to kill were a little confused. They came to kill Luo Shu and the three of them. Naturally, they had done their homework. They knew that Hina, who was originally Colonel Marine, was good at fruit ability. There might be some troubles, but group battles are not too strong. As for Ingrid, half a year ago, she was just a slave who knows nothing. At the beginning, a third-rate pirate group caught her, and only sent 5 ordinary crew members to catch her. This is just one burden. As for Luo Shu, although it is said that he defeated Cracker, Smokey and Katakuri, he has seen too few people. If this is in New World, those people may be afraid of them, but now these people are all from the Grand Line. There is never a shortage of fools in this world. It seems to them that as long as there are enough people, let alone Luo Shu, even Garp, Sengoku, Charlotte Linlin, these people can be killed, they can only be said to be fearless. And now that Hina and Ingrid killed more than a dozen of them with just one move, they were a little scared, but they stopped. It does not mean that Hina and Ingrid will also stop. Ingrid, go up. As Hina stepped on her foot, her voice was left on the spot for an instant, but Hina herself disappeared there, and in a blink of an eye she rushed into the crowd. With a wave of her left hand, a fence made by her appeared in her hand in an instant, and then slammed it directly against the people around her. These people didn't react at all. Hina's speed exceeded their reflex nerves. When they remembered something, the fence in Hina's hand had already smashed into their faces, and all the people in that circle were flying away. When they went out, they had lost their consciousness and fighting ability when they landed, and their faces had been smashed and transformed. At this time, Ingrid also entered the crowd, describing it as a tiger into the flock. In fact, there are some uncertainties. It is more appropriate to describe it directly by cutting melons and vegetables. These ordinary people, when confronted by Ingrid's power that can almost compete with giants, there is no enemy at all, and they die when they touch it. Seeing that the number of his subordinates was rapidly declining, the two in the distance were also sweating at this time, looked at each other, and turned around to run. But at this moment, Hina's pink hair appeared in the middle of the two. Black prison. Bang bang. With 2 loud noises, these 2 people who had been tied up by Hina were held by Hina and threw them in front of Luo Shu. At this time, Ingrid was already wielding a huge sword, beheading a large number of enemies. The rest of the people had already thrown away their weapons, and then knelt on the ground shaking, looking at the 3 people in front of them with horror. Before coming here, to be honest, they thought it shouldn't be a problem for more than 100 people to hit 3 people, but soon they discovered that some of them were too naive. They didn't even need the strongest shot, and they were wiped out. Let's talk about who are you, who is behind, or what is the reason. Closing the notebook Uncle Garp gave him, Luo Shu slowly said while watching the 2 who fell on the ground. Don't underestimate people, you think I will. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the man on the left shouted directly, but before he could finish speaking, Luo Shu's finger was already raised. With a soft pop, the man's left leg burst instantly. Ah, ah, ah. The left leg was blown into a crushing violent rupture, which made this person scream loudly. The blood in his scream made the person next to him tremble. It's more powerful. After screaming for about a minute, the man fainted, but just as he fainted, Ingrid pulled his other leg and plunged it directly into the sea, which made him wake up instantly. After choking for a long time, Ingrid threw him on the beach again. The lack of oxygen, the drowning, and the burst of his left leg just now lost too much blood, which made this person have lost most of his life at this time. Seeing this person's misery, the other person took a deep breath. I said. Luo Shu didn't need to ask more this time, he yelled actively, and Luo Shu turned his attention to him when he heard what he said. My name is Fergus, and his name is Giles. We are all underground middlemen. Seeing Luo Shu looking over, the man said quickly. I'm not interested in what you are called, and what is the underground middleman? Luo Shu raised his brows and asked with some doubts. Underground middleman, that is, a job as a second-door dealer. Looking at Luo Shu, He swallowed, and then began to introduce Luo Shu what an underground middleman was. Underground middlemen are actually intermediaries in sales, so everyone will understand. They brought in some things from many dark areas around the world, and then went to find those who were interested in these things to sell these things and earn the difference in price. It's just that what they sell is not food, houses, decorations and the like, but arms, slaves, and medicines that are banned by certain world governments. As soon as he explained, Luo Shu probably understood that these people should be referred to as arms dealers and snakeheads, but he didn't understand why they would look at him. Your news, we got it in Hannibal. According to legend, there was a big man who was looking at your head. He was going to spend 500 million Baileys to buy it. So, that's why we. Looking at Luo Shu, the man stammered. Hannibal. Hearing this person's words, Luo Shu tried hard to think about it, as if he had never been to this place in the original book. Hannibal, a small island in the first half of the Grand Line, is also known as the Island of Chaos, a paradise for pirates, not far from Alabasta. The most famous is a farce called The Voyage of Death. Zheng Luo Wenshu was searching for the place name in his mind. Hina started talking. Hina was originally a colonel. Although her main patrol location was the Four Seas, naval headquarters is still very good for protecting these potential marines. However, in terms of her own strength and status, it was only a matter of time before she entered the Grand Line. So before that, she had already memorized most of the place names in the first half of the Grand Line, and she has always felt very much about this marine. She naturally knows the tricky parts. Then who is this big man who wants to buy my life? Luo Shu raised his eyebrows as he looked at this man condescendingly and asked him. This, we really don't know, we are just some small characters, how could we know such a thing? Looking at Luo Shu, this person immediately explained it in a panic, and saw that this person it doesn't seem to mean to lie. Then let's go and check it out. Since this person really didn't know, Luo Shu didn't ask much, stood up and moved around and looked at the sea in the distance. Then what do? Seeing Luo Shu's decision, Hina immediately asked, and Luo Shu just glanced at them and waved casually. Seeing Luo Shu waving, these people thought they were saved, but who knows, seeing Luo Shu waving, Hina took out a phone bug and directly called the nearby marine branch. Just kidding, since these people got into Luo Shu's hands, how could he let these people leave easily? Go to Impelton for a while and talk about it. Marine arrived very quickly. In the state of these people crying and crying, Marine was caught on the boat and drove away, but before leaving, Marine came to take the corpses of those who were killed by Luo Shu and others. Thrown into the sea, there will naturally be something to eat. However, Luo Shu and the others changed the venue and continued to practice. There was nothing for a day. In the evening, Luo Shu and the three of them returned to the hotel. They went to have a good meal and returned to the room. The three of them did not rush to rest, but researched the route to Hannibal. This place is really far away. It takes 5 days to get there by boat. Of course, this refers to merchants. If it is a warship or a pirate ship, it will be almost 2 or 3 days. The reason why these people can do this find them quickly because they have their own boats. But now Luo Shu and his ship are still in the Ennie's lobby, and they just had a vacation for their subordinates, and now there is nowhere to find them, so Luo Shu and the others can only go by passenger ship. Fortunately, the passenger ship is also very convenient. After determining the time and location of the ship, Luo Shu and the others began a life that cannot be described. Early the next morning, the three of Luo Shu left the room and went to the port terminal. After booking a top-class cabin there, the three of them boarded the boat. Of course, they did not go empty-handed, at least the city of 7 waters. They are delicious and fun, but they bought a lot. On the morning of the 3rd day when Luo Shu left the capital of 7 waters, a small coffin-like boat slowly sailed into the pier of the capital of 7 waters. And when the medieval nobleman dressed up and the man with a giant black knife on his back walked out of the boat, the people on the dock couldn't help being stupid, looking at this guy in astonishment. Because for these people, no one will not know him, this person is the current world's largest swordsman, Hawkeye Dracul Mahawk. That Luo Shu, is it right here? Hope it won't make me too bored. After finishing his hat lightly, Hawkeye walked towards the city of 7 waters. But unfortunately, he was destined to be disappointed this time, because Luo Shu is no longer here. Sure enough, After looking around in the capital of Seven Waters, he did not find Luo Shu, and then relying on his ability, soon he then inquired about Luo Shu's leaving here. So early the next morning, Hawkeye met his boat again and headed towards the first half of the Grand Line. At this time, Luo Shu was still on a cruise ship. Luo Shu is not bad money now. He has a monthly salary of 3 million yuan. Needless to say, when he robbed Celestial Dragon's heavenly gold, he also took hundreds of millions from it. Although the money is not enough if you want to buy a big ship and get a pirate group or something, it is quite fine if it is purely personal. The big ship Luo Shu is now on is even the most luxurious ship on this route. Indoors and off-deck swimming pools, top restaurants, top suites, and there are training rooms here, so Luo Shu and their sea life will not be too boring. As for the faces of Hina and Ingrid, they did cause some minor disturbances, but in order to avoid these troubles, Luo Shu really registered with his military ID. A Marine Commodore, the people on this ship haven't had the guts to provoke him. So these days, they have had a great time. During the day, they eat well, play well, and train well. At night, the three of them are also very happy together. I don't know if Ingrid and Hina are in India, but at least Luo Shu had a very happy life. 5 days passed in a blink of an eye, and that day, the ship also stopped at the pier in Hannibal. However, as Luo Shu and the other three got off the ship, they found that the atmosphere here was really subtle. The workers on the dock looked at them and clearly revealed unkindness. 90% of the residents here in Hannibal came here later. The residents here were basically pirates before, but they were all of the kind who followed out to sea but did not offer a reward. Little pirate, looking at these people, Hina approached Luo Shu's side and explained it to him. The residents here are basically the kind of people who died after the captain died, or the pirate group disbanded for some reason, or was arrested because there was no reward, no name, and after several years of jail, they came out. Many will settle here. This island was not originally a very developed island. But because of these pirates, this small island is also developing rapidly. Now walking on this small island, you will find that this small island is still very prosperous. The streets and alleys, the buildings and bungalows, are all well built, and the shops on the street are also very complete. However, what surprised Luo Shu and the others was that although everything was complete, at this time, no matter what the store was, basically there was no opening. There are very few. In such an atmosphere, let alone asking someone to ask where the underground casino is, it is difficult even to find a hotel. I wandered in the town for almost 2 hours. It was only when it was time to eat at noon that the town became more popular. The shops of those shops walked out of the shops one by one yawning, and Luo Shu also looked for them. Checked in a hotel that seemed to be the best decorated. However, when they were eating, they had to wait. Luo Shu and the others couldn't help but feel a little confused as they watched the waiters and chefs all yawning. This is the first time for guests to come to Hannibal. Seeing Luo Shu sitting alone at the table, the waiter smiled apologetically and said to them, "Yes, are you here? It's not open during the day." Luo Shu nodded looking at the waiter, and asked with some confusion. Haha, basically, a lot of people in this small town used to be pirates, so we would party late every night here, basically open all night, but during the day is the time of rest. After shrugging, the waiter explained with a smile. Glancing at each other, Luo Shu and Hina both saw a word of clothing from each other's eyes. It seems that the pirate is the pirate. We stayed at the hotel at 12 o'clock, but at one point, Luo Shu and the others only had dinner. However, although they are a bit dissatisfied with the service attitude here, the taste of what is cooked here is still very good, because the chefs who are in charge are basically cooks on the pirate ship before, and pirate is different from marine. Marine is a government agency, so if the big pot of rice is not good, no one will say anything. Just like the school cafeteria, who would ask the cafeteria to be delicious. But the pirate is different. You don't cook well, and he really wants to kill. So the chef's skills here are all practiced in this way. After a meal, Luo Shu and the others went back to rest, and as the afternoon got darker, more and more people took to the streets. Sure enough, they just woke up now. And when eating at night, the atmosphere here has reached a limit. Almost all the shops on the side of the street are open. At a glance, they are all service-oriented shops, such as restaurants, bars, hotels, etc., and there are many shops with large and cool clothes standing in front of the shop. Sister, when they see someone passing by and look inside, they will laugh up and say, "Handsome man, do you want to come in and have a fun?" Occasionally, there will be the sound of falling plates in the hotel, people vomiting on the street, fighting, and robbery. However, for this scene, the residents here have long been used to it. Everyone lives in their own comfort. Days, no one will care about others. It's really impossible. Looking at the lively scene outside, Luo Shu shook his head and smiled, but from his eyes, he felt a little disgusted with it. He didn't like nightclubs before. Place, and now it only bores him. With a long breath, Luo Shu frowned slightly. What's the matter? Seeing that Luo Shu didn't like this place, Hina couldn't help holding his hand, and then asked him in a low voice. It's okay, I just don't like the atmosphere. With a gentle smile at Hina, Luo Shu patted his face to regain his spirit. Luo Shu is telling the truth. He was an IT code farmer in his previous life. The voice he has become accustomed to is only the sound of his fingers tapping the keyboard, so he is somewhat mentally weak. Generally, it seems that this kind of too noisy sound will not make him feel passionate, lively, or even excited. He will only feel very noisy and panic, making him want to leave here very much. But now he can't leave, because he still doesn't know where that place is. Man, please ask, do you know where there are underground casinos or something like this? Luo Shu stopped the man who came to deliver the food. You guys are going to the underground casino. After hearing what Luo Shu said, the food delivery guy was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Luo Shu and the others, with some uncertainty in their eyes. Yes, we are traveling around the world, and I really like to play too, so after arriving at a place, always go to the local casino. If you know, these tips are yours. Luo, while talking, Shu took out a rabbit-mouth Hideo from Kabuto and put it on the table. Pele in this world has a lot of denominations, but basically the denominations of a few hundred beats or coins. In addition to a few hundred, there are 1,000, 5,000 and 10,000. The face value of 1,000 Baileys is printed with Hideo Taguchi, the face value of 5,000 Baileys is printed with Kumaguchi Ichiro, and the face value of 10,000 Baileys is printed with Skull Yogi. As soon as he saw the money on the table, the guy's eyes lit up. After all, no one would have trouble with money. What's more, these guys, who were basically pirates before, spent too much money here, so they came here to work. No one will dislike money or something. So he looked at the money and took it out and put it in his pocket. Go to the bar, put 200 Bailey's coins on the table, and the boss will take you to the underground casino. These 200 Baileys are the entrance fee and the secret signal. You have to go to the tunnel entrance door. Use it once. Looking at Luo Shu and the others, the guy said quickly. Thank you. Luo Shu smiled a bit when he heard the man's words and then started to eat intently, because he estimated that the meal would not be so delicious after he got here today. After eating, Luo Shu took Ingrid and Hina to the bar. According to what the guy said, they put 100 Bailey's QG on the bar. After taking a look at the bar, the boss directly motioned for them to follow, opened the small door on the other side of the bar, and they appeared in a tunnel. After giving Luo Shu and the others a small lamp, the boss returned directly to the bar without saying a word, and Luo Shu and the others also carried the small lamp and walked down. However, after walking not far, that is, about a minute or so, they saw a door in the distance, and there was an old man standing there in front of the door. After Luo Shu showed 200 Bailey coins, the old man opened the door and signaled that they could go in. When they walked into the door, they were really surprised by the scene behind the door. Because at this time, behind the gate, there really is a huge space. This place seems to be the inside of the mountain behind the town. They hollowed out the mountain and formed layers of passages in it, just like a shopping mall, but here, what is sold in every room is not clothes, but all kinds of things. Luo Shu glanced at the number plate beside the passage. The first floor is a buffet, the second to the fifth floor is the casino, the sixth floor is the bar, the seventh floor is the hotel, and the eighth floor is where the professional ladies stay, but there is no doubt that the quality here is better than the outside, and it's more expensive. The ninth floor is where the owner's office is located, but here, it is called a cannon head. In addition to the casino, there are also some small tables on other floors, where many people gather to play cards and the like, but these are basically friends who know or bet against each other. The gambling on the second floor to the fifth floor is the same. In short, this is a very prosperous place, and it is difficult to find such a place on the earth of the previous life. It may be because the area here is very empty, so Luo Shu is not so bored here. He has interrogated the two people. He knows that the head here is the cannon. As for the news about him, I have to ask from that gun. Let's go. Waved to Hina and Ingrid, Luo Shu walked towards the 9th floor. They walked very quickly. The 9th floor is not difficult for them to walk. Although many people along the way are surprised by this organization, the people who come here have everything and no one arrives. Step forward to block. After passing the 8th floor and reaching the 9th floor, there were two people sitting at a corner not far from the stairs. A person is a huge fat man. This fat man is quite disgusting. Yes, it can't be described as ugly. It can only be said that he is very disgusting. And on his lap sat a very beautiful woman. At this time, some people were sitting there playing cards, drinking wine, and watching the tattoos and scars on their bodies. With weapons at hand, it is not difficult to see that these people should be thugs raised here. However, these people were not in Luo Shu's line of sight. When they went upstairs, Luo Shu walked directly in the direction of the gun head. Yeah, Luo Shu, there is Marine. Luo Shu didn't hide anything, and he didn't paint any makeup, so when he was about to walk next to the cannon head at 0.1, when the cannon head looked up, he happened to see Luo Shu's face. When he saw Luo Shu's face, he was stunned for a moment, and then he thought of the famous reward list that had been handed down in the underground world in recent days. With a loud roar from him, the people he was raising next to him reacted for the first time, watching the three Luo Shu who came by, rushing over without saying a word, while the knots on the other layers were still there. The people of the pirates group who were offered a reward reacted immediately after hearing the three words Marine. Some were sneaking away, while others were holding weapons, ready to see where Marine was. As for this fat man at this time, with an agility that is extremely inconsistent with his body shape, he directly turned out the position he was sitting on, and even if he was crawling, he was about to leave. Shave. At this moment, Luo Shu's figure also disappeared in place. How fast is 0.36 seconds? According to statistics, people blink at a speed ranging from 0.3 seconds to 0.4 seconds. In other words, people who blink slowly or blink slowly may not have opened their eyelids yet. Luo Shu has already ran away. Kilometers away. At this time, the distance between him and the fat man must be less than 1 kilometer, so the moment Luo Shu was shaved, he already came to the fat man's side. With a round kick with his right foot, he directly kicked the fat man on top of the pile of fat. The huge impact directly kicked the fat man out and hit the far wall heavily. The fat man is like the same compost oil, slowly slipping off the wall, while the mouth and nose are full of blood. Luo Shu's foot is really not light. As for the killers and the pirates who heard the news, they were blocked by Ingrid and Hina. Based on what Luo Shu knows about Ingrid and Hina, their strength is actually very strong, at least in Marine, their strength can be compared to most Rear Admiral. Hina's original foundation is good, plus she has been practicing the 6 forms for the past 6 months, and is still practicing armament hockey. Her strength is already much stronger than the 21st hour in the original book. And because of her huge size, Ingrid has super strength, and Luo Shu has been teaching her swordsmanship. Although she started from scratch, her actual combat ability is not much worse than Hina. These two people if it is placed in the first half of the Grand Line. Although it cannot be said to be sweeping everything, the pirates under hundreds of millions of people are estimated to have never returned to them. Now it has proved one point. Kill, save the boss. Seeing that fat man was kicked into the air by Luo Shu, although they didn't know how the fat man flew, they still understood the principle of using people's money to eliminate disasters. So the thugs yelled for the first time, and they killed Ingrid and Hina who were stopping them. Looking at the thugs who had killed them, the second girl just glanced at each other, and the corners of her mouth twitched gently, directly. Rushed towards these people. At this time, Luo Shu had already come to the fat man's side, slapped him up and directly awakened the guy. Ah, big brother, uncle, ancestor, I don't seem to have provoked Marine. Looking at Luo Shu, the man came to his senses, then he clutched his mouth and looked at Luo Shu with horror. As a member of the underground forces, this man is not like the two fools who went to assassinate Luo Shu in the first place. He knows something about Luo Shu. So he recognized it quickly, and said with a careful look on his face when he looked at Luo Shu. First, haven't provoked Marine, why did you run? Luo Shu said to him calmly after patted the guy's fat face, and when he heard Luo Shu's words, he also smiled embarrassedly. In fact, they are these. The middleman in the dark world has no clean butt. I came here to ask you something. I heard someone offered a reward of 500 million to take my head. Who is this person? Luo Shu squinted his eyes while looking at the fat man. When he heard Luo Shu's words, the fat man opened his mouth and didn't say it directly. At the same time, there were some dodges in his eyes. Luo Shu doesn't have any tricks to force a confession, but this does not prevent him from directly doing it. Finger pistol. Following Luo Shu's finger, this person's left hand exploded instantly. Ah, ah, ah. Looking at his left hand that had disappeared, and the wrist that looked like an octopus with the flowers turned over, the fat man began to scream like a pig. Hearing his screams, the thugs over there were somewhat indifferent, because at this time they were already scared. When Luo Shu was talking to the fat man, Ingrid and Hina had already settled dozens of people, and this time the two did not keep their hands. Those who fell, not only lost their fighting power, they basically lacked skills in revolving heaven. They knew that these people were pirates, and they weren't good people. What's more, they were in the enemy camp, even though there was Luo Shu. Now, there will be no danger, but they will definitely not keep their hands. Under such circumstances, those people were already scared. The person holding the weapon in the front row looked at Hina and Ingrid, and there was no need to say more about the panic. Can I talk now? Luo Shu looked at him and said, looking at the painful and trembling fat man. Hearing what Luo Shu said, the fat man was really scared. The more rich, powerful people are, the more afraid of death, because they have tasted the sweetness, they are really afraid of losing these. This fat man can be said to be the ruler of this small island, although he did not say that on the face of it. He is indeed the most powerful person on the island. He didn't want to lose all of this, so he was really scared now. I said, can I spare my life? Looking at Luo Shu, the fat man said in a low voice, although if he said it, this is a taboo in the dark world, but now he can't care so much to save his life. Tell me, if I'm satisfied, I'll let you go. Luo Shu shrugged, looking at him and said flatly. Although Luo Shu did not give him any promises, the fat man did not have a chance to hesitate at this time. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, he bit his head and said, I am not very clear about the specifics. My level is also it's not too high, I only know that this news came from the auction house on the one island of the Sabayati Islands. According to legend, you offended a big figure in New World, so that person spent 500 million to buy your head. Looking at Luo Shu, the fat man said everything he knew, but after hearing what the fat man said, Luo Shu's brows wrinkled. He doesn't like this situation of running the ring like doing a task. It felt like he was being led by the nose. After hearing the fat man's words, Luo Shu also wanted to see directly who was behind him from this incident. Since Luo Shu came here, he has only offended two people, one of them is Charlotte Linlin, the BIGMOM pirate group. It is indeed possible for them to spend 500 million to buy their own heads. After all, they defeated Cracker and Smokey, and at the same time severely damaged Kata Curry. The other person may be Doflamingo, because the slave ship he grabbed should belong to him, but for a ship of slaves, Doflamingo would spend 500 million to buy his own head. Luo Shu didn't believe it very much, because he didn't feel such a big hatred. But the auction house in the Sabayati Islands is owned by Doflamingo again. This is really inaccurate. It looks like I can only find time to visit the Sabayati Islands. Standing up again, Luo Shu looked at the fat man who was still sitting there, and slowly stretched his hand. In the fat man's surprised gaze, Luo Shu's finger pointed at the fat man's head. In the next second, the fat man's head suddenly exploded, and Luo Shu also disappeared in place, and when he reappeared, he appeared among the thugs and pirates. In the early morning, when the residents of Hannibal were still asleep, the arrival of a group of Marines broke the tranquility here. Under the hustle and bustle, Marine found the underground casino here, but when the Marines entered, many of them people spit out. Because at this time in this underground casino, it can be said to be quite bloody and brutal. Broken limbs and arms are everywhere, biting the scalp. These Marines can only rush in again, searching for people who are still worth catching. Soon they found evidence of collusion with the dark world in a fairly clean place. And Luo Shu, who caused all of this, had already boarded a boat at this time and went to East Blue. Yes, Luo Shu went to East Blue instead of Sabayati Islands. There are two reasons why he chose to go to East Blue instead of Sabayati Islands. One is that he is going to see the Ishin Dojo. It is almost a year since he left Ishin Dojo. It is inevitable to go back and have a look. Of course, the most important thing is that he wants to ask Koshiro about it. Problems using armament hockey. Compared to combat effectiveness, Garp is really not good at teaching people. Some people are like this. His own ability is invincible, but if he talks about his ability to teach people, he can't teach. They don't have that patience, and they don't have that method. Garp is such a person. Although his strength is stronger than Zephyr, his teaching method is just a little bit wrong. If you ask him to tell me what hockey is, he will take his nostrils and tell you that hockey is hockey. And Luo Shu himself does not belong to that kind of genius, so he needs to find someone to ask. Among the people he knows, the best candidate is naturally Koshiro. The second reason is that Luo Shu simply doesn't like being led by the nose. The ghost knows what will happen after going to the Sabayati Islands. At that time, he still learns armament hockey first. So after leveling there yesterday, Luo Shu got on another cruise with Ingrid and Hina early this morning and headed for East Blue. These cruise ships actually have the background of the world government. Except for no weapons, they are similar to marine ships, and they can pass through the calm belt. Of course, the fare for such a cruise is also extremely expensive. The ticket to board the boat costs 500,000 Baileys per person, and for the top room, it costs 100,000 Baileys. It must be said that the price is quite expensive. But for Luo Shu, who just bought 200 million Baileys from the underground casino, it was not a big money. After a few days of sailing, Luo Shu and the others returned to East Blue. Thinking of the last time I left here, I was just a swordsman's cultivation base. And now that I am back, Luo Shu may already surpass his teacher Koshiro in terms of pure combat power. After a few days of sailing in East Blue, the cruise ship also arrived at the pier of Shimotsuki village on this day. From the dock, Luo Shu went straight to Ishin Dojo. After all, it has only been a year since Ishin Dojo is still the same as it is. With Luo Shu coming back, most of the people know Luo Shu. The big brother called Luo Shu can't help feeling a little, and think of himself. The 2 years I stayed here. Where is the master? I have something to look for him. After chatting with these brothers a few times, Luo Shu also remembered the purpose of coming here, so he asked them with a smile. Master is in the Zen room in the backyard. Are these two sister-in-law? Hearing Luo Shu's words, a younger brother who usually has a good relationship with Luo Shu approached him and said to Luo Shu with a smile, while also whispering asked Luo Shu. Yeah, they are your sister-in-law. Okay, I'll continue in a while, I have something to go to the master. After hearing what he said, Luo Shu also generously admitted. And hearing Luo Shu confess his identity in front of his junior brother, both Hina and Ingrid felt happy in their hearts. Although they didn't sound too nice, it also proved that they were in Luo Shu's heart, status. Okay, let's talk later. Looking at Luo Shu a little enviously, but these juniors did not delay Luo Shu's business, and led him to the backyard before leaving. And Luo Shu respectfully came to the door of the Zen room, knelt there, and knocked gently on the door. After getting permission, Luo Shu opened the door and walked in. Teacher. When Luo Shu walked in, he saw Koshiro with squinted eyes sitting there while drinking tea while pouring the tea on the knife he carried. For Luo Shu, he didn't look surprised when he arrived. It is understandable that Koshiro's strength is very strong. It is impossible for him to not know the two-color hockey. It is estimated that Luo Shu will already know when he arrives in Shimotsuki village. Farewell, I haven't seen you for a year. I heard that you have joined Marine. How are you doing? Koshiro said with a smile when Luo Shu put a cup of tea in front of him. It's not bad. I met noble people in Marine, so now I am Commodore. Taking a sip from the teacup, Luo Shu also said with a smile. Well, you also have a foundation to settle down and live, remember, you have to listen to its opinions. Hearing that Luo Shu is doing well now, Koshiro nodded with satisfaction, and then pointed to the position of his heart. Said to Luo Shu. In Yixin Daochang, the main focus is to cultivate the mind. In addition to laying the foundation, it is also necessary to guard against arrogance and dryness. Luo Shu has stayed here for 2 years, and the plain personality really fits here. By the way, why are you here this time? You just passed by or came here specifically? Koshiro asked curiously as Luo Shu drank the tea. Although he could feel Luo Shu's arrival on the island, he didn't know why Luo Shu came. It's such a teacher. Over the past year or so, first have learned Marine 6 styles and observation hockey, but I got stuck while studying armament hockey. Although my physical condition has reached the training requirements, I can't use it. This time I went to the first half of the Grand Line for something, so I came to visit the master and also wanted the master to help me. Hearing Koshiro's words, Luo Shu also put down the cup and respectfully explained his intentions. And hearing Luo Shu do this, Koshiro also nodded. I'll give it a try. How specific depends on your own comprehension. Koshiro chuckled slightly, and Koshiro said slowly. He still liked this apprentice very much. Ingrid under Luo Shu looked tired at this time. There is no need to say what the three of them did together. Recently they have become accustomed to this kind of life and have to admit that they do certain things that cannot be described. Not only are men addicted when they get up, but women are also addicted. Except for the special time of the week, Luo Shu can't describe them almost every day, and most of them are not on the initiative of Luo Shu. This is really amazing. Is this your previous room? It looks really strange. Lying on Luo Shu's Hun's mouth, Hina idly turned her head, looking at the room they were in and said. Yeah, I have lived here for 2 years. Looking at the room beside him, Luo Shu said with a breath. Master, then we can be regarded as seeing the parents. At this time, Ingrid's hands were also wrapped around from below, hugged Luo Shu and Hina, and asked with a smile. That's right, Luo Shu said after thinking about it while looking at the ceiling. Although Luo Shu had a family in his previous life on the earth, his parents are still alive, and the family relationship is still very good, just like most other families. But in this world, he is indeed lonely. No, he is not considered lonely now, because he has Ingrid, Hina, and Ain. Luo Shu. Looking at Luo Shu's nostalgic gaze, Hina thought it touched Luo Shu's sadness, so she took the initiative to nudge her up and hugged Luo Shu with her hands. It's okay, don't I have you guys now? Okay, go to bed, I have to train tomorrow. Feeling Hina's movements, Luo Shu also patted her back. Then the three of them said goodnight to each other. Luo Shu and Hina fell asleep slowly with their pillows in 2 places that Anjali could not describe. It may be the reason that they returned to the place they are familiar with. Luo Shu slept very well tonight. After Luo Shu and the others woke up the next morning, they went to the back mountain where Koshiro had been waiting for a long time. Koshiro mainly learns swordsmanship, so he has nothing to say about Hina's physical skills, and Hina is at best a 6-style beginner. She still has a lot of way to go, not to mention Garp's little book, yes. Hina is very useful. So Koshiro mainly teaches Luo Shu and Ingrid. Ingrid teaches swordsmanship. Now Ingrid is about to cut steel. Koshiro teaches her the right way, while Luo Shu and Koshiro have I can't teach him swordsmanship. Now he can teach Luo Shu, it is armament hockey. Although Hina is very curious, why is there such a great swordsman in such a small village with little known East Blue name, but because of Luo Shu's relationship, she did not ask much, and naturally she would not say more. Everyone there are everyone's secrets. Since Koshiro is Luo Shu's master, that is also their master, they won't talk nonsense. Just like that, Luo Shu armament hockey's practice began again. When Luo Shu was practicing in Shimotsuki village, many people on the Grand Line who originally stared at Luo Shu were confused, because some of them did not understand why Luo Shu went to East Blue. And because East Blue is Marine's territory, their people can't penetrate. They don't know where Luo Shu went to East Blue. In this case, the days are passing by day. However, unlike observation hockey can actually be regarded as a skill to practice alone, while armament hockey is related to many things. For example, iron body, such as physical fitness. Luo Shu's physical fitness has already reached the existence second only to the great swordsman. Such a physical fitness, let alone practice hockey, practice everything is enough. Observation hockey has no barriers, and a casual child can also practice. Armament hockey's threshold is the swordsman class. Luo Shu has now exceeded a lot. And Koshiro's teachings on Luo Shu are more detailed than those written in Garp's little book. When Luo Shu can persuade his heart to accept hockey's settings, he also has an understanding of hockey's cultivation speed and comprehension. It is increasing rapidly. Before he knew it, Luo Shu returned to Shimotsuki village for a month. And when the practice on that day was over, Luo Shu's system screen, which had never been jumped suddenly, popped up again with a dialogue box. Congratulations to the player for learning the skills, Armament Hockey, currently at level 55-1. Looking at this dialogue box, Luo Shu pressed the excitement in his heart, and there was a silent entanglement in his heart, and an almost invisible energy appeared around his hand. Luo Shu knew that this was Armament Hockey. Seeing this, the excitement in Luo Shu's heart is needless to say. After cultivating for so long, finally, he has learned everything he should learn. Looking at hockey in Luo Shu's hands, Koshiro also laughed. Luo Shu finally learned. In the evening, Luo Shu invited all the villagers to have a meal together. This meal cost him millions of baileys, but Luo Shu was quite happy because the hill on his heart was finally flattened. Of course, for him, seeing and hearing is the great mountain, but if you want to become the top combat power in this world, armed with color is also indispensable. In the evening Luo Shu and the others celebrated until late, and when they went back to rest, Luo Shu also opened the skill column after Hina and Ingrid were asleep. There is nothing to say, just start adding it. While adding Armament Hockey, he found that hockey still had to be ranked. Hockey is divided into 3 levels. The first level is entanglement, what Luo Shu has learned is entanglement, and the second is hardening. Most people are of this level. Fists, legs, and weapons are wrapped in armed color. The last level is coverage. The so-called coverage is like Virgo or Pika, covering the whole body, but their coverage is not complete. Just look at the color of Armament Hockey on them, and the density is far worse. But Luo Shu doesn't need to worry about these issues, because he will reach a limit no matter whether it is quality or quantity, the limit within the allowable range of this world rule. Armament Hockey, LV1, uses an invisible aura to wrap around the body or weapon to attack or defend. It can hit any existence, including those with Logia ability. The upper limit is increased by 5% of its own attack power, and the body defense is increased by 5%. Armament Hockey, LV30, uses hockey to wrap and harden one's own body or weapons to attack or defend. It can hit any entity that has it. The upper limit increases by 85% of its own attack power and the body's defense increases by 85%. Armament Hockey, LV70, uses hockey to cover his whole body and weapons to attack or defend. It can hit any entity possessing it. The upper limit increases by 130% of its own attack strength and the body's defense increases by 130%. Armament Hockey, LV99, uses hockey to cover his whole body and weapons to attack or defend. It can hit any entity that has it. The upper limit increases by 220% of its own attack strength, and the body's defense increases by 220%. This is the ultimate Armament Hockey. Of course, this is just what Luo Shu saw after becoming digital. In fact, there is really no way to use data to explain this thing in detail, because it is really troublesome to explain. Hockey is a kind of energy, even Koshiro taught Luo Shu that way. And although the amount of this energy is related to hockey's own level, it is basically determined by the condition of the body. The body's own attack power, defense power, and hockey's storage capacity are all very different. For example, if a person's armed color has reached level 99, but his body strength is only 1000, then his attack power is at most 3200. But if a person's physical strength is 10,000, even if he only has Armament Hockey, his attack power is 10,500. And the amount of hockey itself is also different. The amount of hockey is like the MP in the game. The amount of input and the effect are different. The above is only an increase in the upper limit, but if your level has reached this level, but the hockey stored in your body has reached this level, that also doesn't make much sense. The amount of hockey itself, the limit of coverage, these are all particular. Although the world has not graded armament hockey, everyone knows that the darker the hockey is covered, the greater its thickness, and the stronger its destructive power. So don't look at Virgo and Pika covering the whole body, but this only means that their armed color level is higher, but they don't have enough armament hockey to make their armed color more powerful, which is why they are one of them. Luo, a reason for being cut by Zoro. Look closely at their armament hockey, they are not black, but purple and black. This is caused by hockey's insufficient coverage, while Garp and Zephyr have already reached the coverage level J equals. However, they have hardly used coverage, because this will undoubtedly make their own hockey storage large and cover consumption, and if it is flat, the thickness will also be a huge problem, so they will only cover hockey in the attack location. But Luo Shu doesn't have to worry about this problem. After adding armament hockey to the full level, he once tried it in the middle of the night. When he found that his hockey covered his whole body without any variegation, it was pure black, Luo Shu was satisfied. Nodding, his goal this time has been achieved. And when he trained armament hockey to ultimate, his system interface changed again. His level, from the swordsman to the great swordsman, finally. After staying in Shimotsuki village for 2 more days, Luo Shu and Koshiro renewed their old lives, and then he, Hina and Ingrid left. This month, the three have made considerable progress. Needless to say, Luo Shu added the ultimate armament hockey, which is enough to make him happy, and Hina's practice of hockey has also improved. At least for now, her hockey can be entangled. Although the timing is not effective and the amount is small, it is not without the power to fight back against Logia. And Ingrid finally broke through the realm of Zongong in this month, and now she is faintly regarded as a master. After all, besides the realm of Kendo, she is fundamentally her great power. Luo Shu is now also teaching her Marine 6 styles. As for whether this will nurture a monster, Luo Shu doesn't know, but as his women, he doesn't ask them to bully others, but at least they can't be allowed to be bullied. It's good for others to bully. After leaving Shimotsuki village, Luo Shu is also ready to return to the City of 7 Waters, because his boat has been built, but before leaving, Luo Shu and the others are ready to play for another day, and the goal they set is Sea Restaurant Barati. East Blue, as the face project of the world government, is not only the least pirates but also the safest. It is also a famous tourist sea. The famous attractions here are the town where the One Piece was born and died, and there are many other peaceful countries. In addition to the beautiful scenery, food is naturally the top priority, and the apex of East Blue's food is the legendary sea restaurant Barati. It has been rated as one of the best restaurants in the world by many food magazines. It can be said to be second to none in East Blue in terms of taste and environment. In the world, the only one that can match this place is probably only the City of Food. Even the things made by the ants world may not be as delicious here. Of course, this is a comprehensive evaluation of the ratio. If it is just better than desserts, it is estimated that Wangguo is better. Does the art industry have a specialization? And Luo Shu's goal this time is here. While sitting on the cruise ship, Luo Shu and the others went directly to the restaurant on the sea, but when they came in, Luo Shu found that the lecherous chef Sanji was not there. This surprised him a bit. Could it be that the plot has already begun unknowingly? But no matter whether the plot starts or not, with the current strength of Luo Shu, you don't have to care about it. After sitting here and ordering a lot of food, Luo Shu will taste the food while looking at the sea outside. I have to say, there is really some comfort. But at this moment, the shadows of 2 ships suddenly entered Luo Shu's observation hockey. One of them should be a warship, but it should not be of high grade, even smaller than a school-class warship, and the other one is an old 3-masted sailing ship. When the two were connected, they fired directly. The people in the boat seemed to have 2 shots. They easily escaped from the artillery attack, but it seemed that a person came flying over. Before Luo Shu could react, this person ran into Barati's 2nd floor, and then Heshi's that a kid in a red vest and straw hat stood up from the 2nd floor and saw this person. Luo Shu was stunned for a moment. Could it be that the plot just started? Wow, what a beautiful lady, let's leave it to Xiaosheng to serve. Pop. While Luo Shu was observing Luffy there, Sanji in a black suit was turning around and braving Love at the back kitchen not far away. And he took the direction of Love, and naturally Luo Shu was here. Whether it's Hina or Ingrid, just looking at the face and figure is an invincible choice. Of course, Ingrid's model is slightly larger. When Luo Shu and the others came, Sanji was about to come to serve, but was directly locked into the back kitchen by red-footed Zapu and ordered him not to go out. Because although Sanji couldn't feel it, Zapu knew that Luo Shu over there was terrifying. When Sanji was about to toss an escape, Zapu came out with Luffy, who had crashed his room, and hit Sanji's head directly with his kick. "Smelly old man, what are you going to do?" Sanji yelled at Zip while holding the bag on his head, but it was obvious that the people in the back kitchen were already familiar with this scene. "If you don't want to die, and you don't want us to die, you should be honest here. Never provoke that guy. That guy's strength is particularly strong." After pulling Sanji's clothes, Zapu looked at the distance. Luo Shu said solemnly, "Hey, old man, is it as horrible as you said?" Sanji was a little awake when he heard Zapu's words, and while rearranging his clothes, he said uncomfortably, but Zapu was already lazy to care about him, directly called another chef named Patey to come over as a waiter. After Sanji took a serious look at Luo Shu, he stopped looking there. Because he was really afraid that he would look at it a few more times, it would hurt Zip and the others. But fortunately, at this time, another wave of people came in. It was not someone else who came in. It was Marine, who had just shot the Straw Hats and came in, and there was also a beautiful woman in a red dress who kept coming in. For the beauty, Sanji's reaction was very quick, and the goal shift was also very quick. Iron Fist Hobody, what is he doing here? Hina raised her brows as she looked at the two who walked in, and asked with some confusion. "You know," Luo Shu asked Hina while tasting the food here. "A captain in the headquarters is not good, but he has a lot of bragging skills. I heard that there are some people above, but the level is too low. I heard that he was sent to the world to patrol by the headquarters, but he did not expect to come to East Blue." Hearing what Luo Shu said, Hina also briefly talked to him, and when he heard what he said, Luo Shu also nodded. In any bureaucratic society, going through the back door is indispensable. Some of the naval headquarters are people who walk through the back door, some are high colonels, rear admiral, commodore, etc. who have been promoted with the help of officers. There are no relatives, nephews, and so on. They want to let these people mix with Marines and have a good food and clothing, but they don't want them to take risks and suffer. Luo Shu has seen many people like this in naval headquarters. It looks like this Iron Fist waved something like this. And it didn't take long for this guy to be here before he was offended. Sanji was kicked out of the restaurant. Soon after they left, a group of people also walked into the restaurant on the sea. These people were the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates. It was also the first time that Luo Shu saw other protagonists besides Zoro. Speaking of, Luo Shu also had a second grade. When he was in junior high school, he happened to catch up with the Shanghai Pirate King serialization, so he got stuck in, and kept chasing after the end of the war. He also had a job and started to be busy, so he didn't chase and watch the story later. He knows a little bit, but the details are not clear. Now looking at these characters that once fascinated him, to be honest, there is still some excitement in his heart. Nami, Usopp, plus Zoro, who I watched for 2 years, Luffy, who is serving at this time, and Sanji, who I just watched, the initial lineup of the Straw Hat Pirates is here. How? No. Looking at Luo Shu's gaze, she kept looking over there. At this time, Hina smiled and asked Luo Shu. "Ah, that green algae head is my junior," Luo Shu said with a smile when he pointed to Zoro over there. When he said that, he couldn't help but think of the trivial things that he had abused Zoro over the past 2 years. He had to admit that he abused these fate. The feeling of the sun is really refreshing. The reason why Zoro chose to be a pirate hunter has something to do with Luo Shu, because he feels that he can't beat Luo Shu no matter how he fights. Instead of doing this, he might as well go out for a while, but it is also because of Luo Shu relation. Let his strength be stronger than in the original book. The Wheel of Destiny is really annoying, Luo Shu muttered softly, and Luo Shu continued to eat. Although Luo Shu was in this world, he didn't intentionally change the course of development of anything, but because of his participation, after all, it can be regarded as a little butterfly flapping its wings. As a result, history is constantly repeating itself. I have to admit that the historical revision of this world is really strong. Of course, the above is purely Luo Shu's thinking there. With his current strength, he can't touch the origin of the world, but it doesn't mean that he can't talk nonsense, right? What happened later was just like what Luo Shu had seen. Straw Hat Crew was eating and drinking here, and then the second big pirate of East Blue, the battle captain of Admiral Click, and the starving ghost Akin appeared, just like when watching cartoons, except for the original 2D cartoons. At this time, it has become a live-action 6D movie. Click returned with his defeated soldiers. After eating the food Sanji gave them, they tried to rob Barati restaurant, but they fought with Luffy and the others. While fighting, suddenly a huge slash flew 0.6 from a distance, directly cutting Click's last ship into two parts. The coffin boat, the nobleman's dress, and the black knife behind it. When these pictures were combined, Zapu thought of a legendary figure, the eagle-eyed Dracula Mahawk. Zoro, who wanted to become the world's #1 swordsman, challenged Hawkeye. But unfortunately, his strength is too weak. With the final defeat of the 3000 worlds, Zoro also exposed Hungarian to Hawkeye. The sword in the back is a shame for the swordsman. Just as Hawkeye's black sword knight was about to draw an arc at Zoro Hun's mouth, a sudden slash cut directly open the wall of Barati's restaurant, slammed into Hawkeye's black knife, and saw this. With a slash, Hawkeye's eyes condensed instantly. Ding! With a crisp sound, Hawkeye's black saber yi directly slammed on that slash, but what people didn't expect was that the slash could not hold back with black saber yi at this moment. Drink! Until Hawkeye yelled, the black knife knight was suddenly covered with a layer of black existence, which caused the blow to deviate and flew to the sea. But even so, that slash also directly separated the sea next to it, and it flew over, not knowing how far it flew before it gradually disappeared. Luo Shu. Although I haven't seen Luo Shu, there are not many people in this world who can issue such slashes, so Hawkeye instantly thought of the person he was looking for this time. Luo, big brother. Hearing Hawkeye's words, Zoro immediately turned his head and looked behind. Sure enough, at this moment, Luo Shu and his party also walked out of Barati and looked. At Luo Shu's familiar face, Zoro's face changed instantly. Hi, Hawkeye, hello, yo, Baji is here too. Smiling and saying hello to the two, Luo Shu slumped on the railing and looked at the two with a smile on his face. Hawkeye has nothing to say. As for Zoro's nickname, only Luo Shu and Zoro know about this stem. For this reason, Zoro challenged Luo Shu, but unfortunately, the result was very single. This little brother is your junior. Looking at Luo Shu, Hawkeye's gaze shifted, and he stared at Luo Shu fiercely. This time he went to sea to find Luo Shu. As a result, he was always a step slower. After chasing Hannibal, he chased Luo Shu and lost him. This month, he basically wandered around in the first half of the Grand Line, and then he disturbed his sleep. He began to hunt down the Click pirates. Unexpectedly, he ran to East Blue and made a round, and he unexpectedly met his goal. Yeah, so if you want to kill him, I have to make a move. After all, he is my master's favorite disciple. I didn't see the knife on his waist. That is my master's heirloom. Looking at Hawkeye with a smile, Luo Shu said heartlessly. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Zoro's face was rarely red, but after the battle just now, he also knew that the distance between himself and the #1 in the world was too big. Now he is a little curious, how strong is his current strength, the senior who used to be pressing himself. He never thought that his senior could be compared with Hawkeye, but the slash just now seemed to be really strong. Come on, Luo Shu, fight with me and bet on the reputation of the world's #1 swordsman. Ignoring Luo Shu's words, Hawkeye raised the big knife in his hand and looked at Luo Shu full. It was killing intent, and looking at the look of Hawkeye, Luo Shu smiled, and did not refuse. Taking the flying rein next to him, Luo Shu jumped off the boat directly, stood straight on the Click boat, and looked at Hawkeye condescendingly. Although Luo Shu doesn't think he is a pure swordsman, he will not shrink from such a challenge. What's more, he doesn't think he will lose. Maybe Hawkeye's combat experience will crush him, but Luo Shu's hard power is stronger. Now his physical fitness has reached the level of a great swordsman, and it is not much worse than Hawkeye, and the most important thing is that his kendo level is higher than Hawkeye, and the sight, smell, and armament Haki are also better than Hawkeye. Hawkeye is high, how could he lose in this situation? Seeing Luo Shu challenged, although Tenten was together, Hina and Ingrid had a good understanding of Luo Shu's combat effectiveness, but worry was inevitable. The two of them clenched their fists for a while and looked at the distance nervously. Case. And Luo Shu also drew out his own flying rein at this time. This is your secondary weapon. Watching Luo Shu pull out the rein, Hawkeye's brows frowned. After all, the kid referring to Zoro just now has a big sharp knife, but Luo Shu now what was drawn out was just a good knife and 50 workers. If Luo Shu's strength is really like what Marine has said, then it is impossible for him to use such a bad weapon, but it is a pity that Luo Shu uses such a bad weapon. No, this is my weapon, but I don't think my knife will be worse than yours. With a chuckle, Luo Shu is still very satisfied with his flying rein. The biggest feature of Feiyu's knife is that it is light enough and fast enough, and Luo Shu himself doesn't care about the strength of his attack power, because his attack power can be said to be violent. When there is no need to pursue lethality, the words Huiyan Cthulhu once said is very important, the world martial arts, only fast is not broken. And Feiyu is fast enough. I hope you lose in a while. It won't be said that the weapon is not powerful. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the eagle eye's momentum is also rising rapidly, and his eyes are also full of killing intent at this time. But Luo Shu still stood there smiling, not even drawing a knife. However, Hawkeye would not think that Luo Shu is trying to support the big, or look down on himself, because at this time there is only a knife in his eyes. As the eagle eye's momentum climbed to ultimate, the black knife in his hand Yi also instantly slashed towards Luo Shu, a slash that was no worse than Luo Shu's just now, even faster, and a sharper slash directed towards Luo Shu. Hacked past. But at this moment, Luo Shu who was standing there suddenly disappeared. Almost at the same time, Luo Shu's body shape had entered the state of extremely slow time flow. He jumped to Hawkeye's side, and his original grinning expression disappeared without a trace at this time. Draw a knife and cut it. Looking at the eagle eye next to him, Luo Shu whispered in his heart, and instantly his Feiyu was pulled out. A dazzling slash that reached the ultimate slash, slashed directly towards Hawkeye at nearly zero distance. However, Hawkeye's sixth sense and experience are not for dry food. At the last moment, he directly brought Black Knife Knight back, blocking Luo Shu's killer blow. But even so, the power of Luo Shu's blow broke out, and he directly smashed the eagle eye out. When the eagle eye was in the air, Luo Shu's rein in his hand also swung several times. Countless slashes flew directly towards the eagle eye, and the eagle eye in the midair was unambiguous, and directly flew countless slashes as well. But when the slashes of the two collided, something that made Hawkeye extremely surprised happened. That was not Luo Shu's slash, it was slightly better than him. The slashes on both sides are consumed together, but when the slashes on his side have been exhausted, Luo Shu actually has some left. Although not many, it means that his sword skills may really not be available. Luo Shu's strong. Chapter 51. Looking at the slashes that came, Hawkeye didn't panic, and the black knife in his hand Yi Lianxian was completely defeated by him when these slashes were about to reach him. But at the moment when these slashes were defeated, Luo Shu's figure did not know when he had already come behind him. Draw a knife and cut. As the rein in Luo Shu's hand flashed, a powerful slash struck from behind Hawkeye, but Hawkeye's reaction was not unpleasant. His body sank instantly, and Luo Shu escaped. With a blow, Luo Shu's body shape also flashed, and he directly slammed into Hawkeye. Ding ding, clang clang clang. With the sound of countless gold and iron flashes, Luo Shu and Yingyan also started to fight each other in midair, but the speed of the two was too fast, except for the occasional appearance of their bodies, only their intensive clashing sounded all around. It is already difficult for the people below to capture the location of these two people with their eyes. At least a few hundred moves were fought between the two people, and Luo Shu's combat experience was also growing rapidly at this time. Since Luo Shu has observation hockey and armament hockey, he has almost never fought seriously. Now this one, to be honest, is very much to his taste. His application of these two types of hockey in actual combat is constantly deepening with the intensity of the battle, and Hawkeye is his best sparring partner. Although Hawkeye was unwilling to be Luo Shu's sparring partner in this way, he unexpectedly discovered that in addition to his physical fitness, he also slightly overwhelmed Luo Shu. He seemed to be inferior to Luo Shu in other abilities. Such a discovery made Hawkeye's heart really violent. No one has ever been able to suppress him in swordsmanship. Even the red-haired Shanks would not be his opponent in swordsmanship. If it weren't for fighting him, he always let Haki interfere with him. He may not be his opponent, but this Luo Shu, for the first time made Hawkeye feel lagging behind in kendo, such a feeling, I don't know how long it has not been. Luo Shu is better at hitting, while Hawkeye is more frightened as he hits. The two didn't know how long they fought, and finally Luo Shu observation Haki's foreseeing the future was launched again. In fact, Luo Shu's foreseeing the future has been launched at least a dozen times since the fight, but unfortunately it was because of experience problems that he missed it. Many opportunities, but this time, he finally caught it. As the flying rain in Luo Shu's hand slashed towards the position where the Eagle Eye was about to reach, Eagle Eye's eyes suddenly stood up, and the powerful black knife Yi turned around and threw it directly in front of Luo's flying rain. With a crisp sound of ding, the two weapons hit directly for the first time, and there was no way to retreat, no way to dodge. An invisible and powerful aura broke out directly in the middle of the two, and even the air had been cut out. A crack in the cobweb. Feeling the rain of Luo Shu slowly pressing against him, Hawkeye's face also showed a rare hideous color. Suddenly the big knife in his hand was directly covered by the dark armament Haki, and it suddenly rose, huge. Power, directly flew Luo Shu out. Then he flicked the big knife in his hand, and suddenly slashed towards Luo Shu directly. And Luo Shu also used armament Haki at this time, but unlike Hawkeye, Luo Shu covered his whole body in an instant. Just kidding, his armed color is well deserved in terms of quality and quantity. World number 1. Looking at the Zon strike that envelops armament Haki, the Feiyu in Luo Shu's hand slashed horizontally, and the slash of Luo Shu's slash in Luo Shu's hand still couldn't shake. Luo Shu received the slash of Eagle's Eye, it was like holding it in his hand. Use an extremely sharp knife to cut the tofu. Swipe. With a sound, Luo Shu's knife slashed directly on the slash of the Eagle Eye. Suddenly, the slash of the Eagle Eye was directly cut in half and dissipated between the sky and the earth. Seeing Luo Shu's movements, Hawkeye's head also lowered. This Luo Shu is stronger than the data he collected, but this also aroused his heart for a decisive battle. This kind of oppression hasn't appeared for a long time. Feeling the warm blood that gushes from his heart, the corners of Hawkeye's mouth unconsciously moved, and after he let out a sullen sip, he killed Luo Shu again. But this time, it was obviously more dangerous than just now, and the speed of the two increased by one level again, and the same was true for strength and slashing. Seeing the two men fighting from the sky to the sea, and then from the sea to the sky, the people below were all dumbfounded. No one dared to move now. Everyone knew that the battle had entered a white-hot stage. There are only 3 people on the court who can see clearly. Only Zapu, whose body is extremely aging, but still looking at it, and Hina and Ingrid who have been mixing with Luo Shu all the year round, but the 3 of them can't see clearly, only seeing some afterimages constantly in the air. Fight against each other. Originally, the clouds in the sky were completely dispersed due to the attack of these 2 people. The sea level was almost suppressed by a few meters. It seemed that only these 2 people were left in the sky at this time. Fight, armament Haki versus armament Haki, knife versus knife. The next attack almost changed the color of the world. As Luo Shu's observation Haki foresees the future for the 72nd time in this battle, Luo Shu once again seized the opportunity and threw a slash directly in the air. The slash covered with the mighty armament Haki slashed directly towards the Eagle Eye. At this time, the Eagle Eye was indeed unavoidable. He could only turn around and hold a black knife Yi and Luo Shu contended. But when the slash hit the black knife in his hand, although it didn't do anything to this supreme sharp knife, the huge power still smashed the Eagle Eye out. That huge slash directly pushed Hawkeye from the air to Luffy to the second half of Click's pirate ship. The speed of the sinking pirate ship suddenly became faster. Because of this slash of the Eagle Eye and Luo Shu, the second half of the ship was directly smashed into countless pieces. With a pop, the Eagle Eye was directly smashed into the sea by Luo Shu. Then a few drops of blood came out from under the sea, and Luo Shu also fell on a wooden board not far away at this time, smiling at the distant ocean. He didn't think that Hawkeye was dead like this. Although he didn't know Hawkeye, it was the first time he saw him today, but it did not prevent him from knowing how powerful the great swordsman was. Hawkeye can't die, but Luo Shu is also very happy, because now death and immortality are not the most important thing is that he won. Hey, Zoro, this is your brother. Usopp stammered as he looked at Zoro, who was severely injured by the knife. Ah, it's my brother. At this time Zoro was also in a state of confusion. Although he knew that Luoshu was strong, he didn't know how strong Luoshu was. People are self-exclusive. Even if Luoshu and Zoro said that he is the world's largest swordsman, Zoro would not believe it, but now when Luoshu defeated Hawkeye in front of Zoro, even if you don't want to believe it, you have to believe it. Because Luoshu's combat effectiveness is really a bit too scary. He couldn't think that the peak of the martial arts he had been pursuing was by his side, and smiles appeared on the faces of Hina and Ingrid next to them. Only Nami not far away looked at Luoshu over there with some entanglement. To be honest, after seeing the disgusting face on the order that Johnny threw out just now, Nami had some urge to leave, but now she looked far away. If Luoshu really was, if Zoro's brother is really the world's #1 swordsman, is it possible that he has ever played Arlong? If Luoshu at this time knows that Nami is thinking about who is better between him and Arlong, he is probably crazy, let alone Arlong. Even if 757 is Jinbei now in his eyes, it is a Harry. Compare him with Arlong, how do you look down on him? Fortunately, Luoshu didn't know what Nami was thinking. Bang! At this moment, a splash of water suddenly appeared in the sea ahead, and then the eagle eye jumped out of the water and stepped on another wooden board. At this time, his situation is really not optimistic. The original gentleman's clothes have also become tattered at this time. The black knife in his hand is weakly hanging by his hand, and a trace of blood is left at the corner of his mouth. The only thing is that it has not changed. Yes, they are his eyes, those eyes pursuing Kendo Ultimate. I'm defeated, let's do it. Looking at Luoshu, Hawkeye Mihawk opened his hands like Zoro just now, looking sullenly at Luoshu. Hands? What hands? However, Luoshu smiled after hearing Yingyun's words, and then put Feiyu away. Why, you look down on me. Seeing Luoshu's movements, Hawkeye's eyes narrowed, and a strong killing intent emerged. I look down on you. It has nothing to do with killing you or not. First I'm Marine and you are Shichibukai. In a sense, we are friendly forces. What do I kill you for? He smiled, and Luoshu turned directly. He turned his head and flew towards Baratie. I swear by this strongest black knife, the first thrown, I will definitely take it back. Seeing that Luoshu really didn't mean to kill himself, Hawkeye also sat down weakly and looked at his hands. This black knife knight, known as the #1, said in a deep voice. It's up to you, but if you want to challenge me, I will always stand at the top and look at you. With a casual smile, Luoshu returned to Baratie and ignored everyone. Back to Baratie with Hina and Ingrid. Eagle Eye looked at Luoshu's disappearing back, gritted his teeth, and finally jumped back into his coffin boat and left slowly. After Hawkeye completely left, the scene at this time was somewhat embarrassing. Because Click was a little bit confused, Hawkeye can't match him, let alone defeated Hawkeye's Luoshu, and Luoshu is in Baratie at this time. Whether he grabs or not grabs the ship, this is a very troublesome question. But he was entangled, Luffy wouldn't entangle, this stubborn guy was fierce, and the battle here was over. Although he was also shocked, he still fought towards Click. The original fierce battle, now Luoshu looks, it feels like a child's playhouse no matter how you look at it, he is not interested in fighting at this level. In this battle, Luffy exploded again and defeated the pirate Admiral Click. After winning, everyone was very happy, but only Zoro and Nami showed some serious concerns. After a simple dressing, Zoro walked back to Baratie, and saw Luoshu and the others at a glance, because now the only people eating here are Shira's table. Cut, it turns out that the culmination I have been pursuing is you. Zoro said with an unhappy face as he sat on the opposite side of Luoshu. No rules, stand at attention. Looking at Zoro's unhappy look, Luoshu said with a cold face, and when he heard Luoshu's words, Zoro stood up despite his reluctance. After all, Luoshu's 2 years in Isshin Dojo left a deep shadow on Zoro, but in the same way, Luoshu's training also made Zoro stronger and more solid. What should you call me? Luoshu said playfully, looking at Zoro standing there. Cut, brother. He curled his lips in disdain, and then Zoro whispered. Okay, sit down, Baji. Waved to Zoro. Luo Shu also laughed and said, and when Luo Shu said this, Zoro sat down again. These two are your sister-in-laws, Hina and Ingrid. Luo Shu introduced to Zoro, referring to the two people around him. After listening to Luo Shu's words, Zoro nodded respectfully to them, but then looked at Luo Shu again. Hey, I said, why are you here? I heard that you became a marine. Zoro said seriously, looking at Luo Shu. Vacation, so you don't have to worry about me coming to catch you. After smiling a little, Luo Shu said plainly. He really didn't come to catch the Straw Hat Pirate Group. After all, this pirate group actually counted 3 days ago. It has just been established, and there is no reward yet. Zoro's brother, hello, my name is Nami, I heard that you are marine. And hearing Luo Shu's words, at this moment Nami, who had just got up with him, hesitated and walked over and watched Luo Shu plucked up the courage and said. Yeah, is there anything wrong with my little sister? Hina asked with a smile looking at Nami's face. That's it, I have one thing, I want to react to you. After gritting his teeth, Nami raised his head and looked at the Luo Shu three people in front of him seriously. There is always a voice in her heart saying that Luo Shu is very likely to be the savior of Kokoja village. If she does not seize this opportunity, then they will have no chance to stand up again. Bang! As Hina's fist directly smashed the dining table in front of him, he could see that Luo Shu's face was not very pretty. Nami had already talked about the dragon pirates just now, and also revealed the things about Colonel Rat. When he heard Marine colluding with pirates and oppressing humans, even Luo Shu could feel that Hina's fire was already burning. Marine and pirates can be said to be completely opposites, although in this world, it is not black and white, and more of existence are gray areas. You can't beat the opponent, dodge, and back down. Things like this have happened in every marine branch on the ocean. So if Colonel Rat was blocked by the dragon and couldn't beat him, Hina wouldn't be so angry. But as the highest officer of a branch, he colluded with the pirates. Such a thing is absolutely impossible to be forgiven. If such a thing is exposed, Colonel Mouse will undoubtedly die, and now he is still sitting so securely. Then there are only two possibilities. One is that he has bought all the people in the base, but it is almost impossible. There will always be thousands of people in a marine branch, and there will always be some people who have a righteous heart. They only need to go up, hit a report, and then Colonel Mouse is done. Since the first type is not possible, it is only possible that the second type is possible, that is, someone on the mouse directly suppresses this matter. But no matter what it was, this time he was offended by Luo Shu and the others. Let's go to this branch and take them. Zoro, go and take the evil dragon pirate group. After thinking for a while, Luo Shu gave the order directly, and then stood up. Hey, you guys, don't you go to fight the evil dragon. Nami cried out in shock when they heard Luo Shu and they didn't plan to deal with the evil dragon. Don't worry, my junior and the people he likes, it's impossible to beat a 20 million Murloc, and after first take the marine branch, I will go straight there. If Zoro doesn't have them solve each other, I will deal with them. With a light smile, Luo Shu threw 10,000 Baileys on the table, which was the cost of the meal, and then left the restaurant directly. Although he was entangled in his heart, now Nami can only believe in Luffy and Zoro. Luo Shu is the owner of the restaurant on the sea. After Zapu asked for a small boat, the three of them went directly to the marine branch, and they were still in Balati on the side of the road, because Luffy was taking Sanji with him. Leave. How Luffy persuaded Sanji, Luo Shu didn't know, but they were not too far away from the marine branch. After more than 2 hours, a small town appeared in Luo Shu's sight. Next to the town is the Marine Division. There are a total of 2,200 soldiers in this Marine Division. The main task is to protect the peace of the 50 villages around it. And now, nearly half of the villages are already under the rule of Arlong. The more you go here, the more anger in Hina's heart becomes. Although Hina is not an absolute justice like Akainu, she will never allow Marine to collude with the pirates. As they set foot in the town, the three of them also headed towards the marine branch. When Luo Shu and the others came here, the people on guard in the marine branch saw them at the first time and couldn't help shouting. Naval Headquarters Commodore Luo Shu and Colonel Hina are here, ask you Colonel Mouse to come and see Hina. Hina shouted directly after hearing the words of the Marines here. When Hina said this, the two guards over there looked at each other, one of them ran towards the inside, while the other tremblingly saluted. When Luo Shu and the others walked into the branch not long ago, a group of people rushed over. However, the leader was not the person in charge here, Colonel Rat, but another person. Marines 178th Branch, under the jurisdiction of the 18th Division Major Xiao Gerard, has met two officers. As this man ran to Luo Shu and the others, this man also saluted Luo Shu and Hina. Shouted loudly. "Where is the mouse?" Hina asked the major angrily after looking at the major. "Colonel," he went to look around the surrounding territory. Hearing Hina's words, the major hesitated for a while, and then said loudly. "Where did you go?" Seeing what he said, Hina immediately asked. "It should be near Kokoja village." After thinking about it, the major also said. "Did he go to patrol or take bribes?" Upon hearing the major's words, Hina leaned over in an instant, yelling at him angrily. "Colonel, I don't understand what you mean." Hearing what Hina said, the major's hand swayed slightly behind his back, and then he went back forcibly. "Hey, I really don't shed tears without seeing the coffin. We already have evidence that Colonel Rat colluded with the dragon pirates to take bribes. Otherwise, what do you think we are here for?" Luo Shu stepped forward upon hearing this man's words. After a move, he said to him jokingly. "These two are fake naval headquarters officers, kill me on the spot." After hearing Luo Shu's words, the major also knew that things could not be done right, and directly shouted at the people behind them. They knew very well, Marine and the pirates colluded and bullied the civilians, especially this happened in East Blue. If naval headquarters or the world government knew about it, they would be dead. So it's death no matter what, it's better to fight it. If Hina and Luo Shu can be killed, then they can also become pirates. But unfortunately, he has some who underestimated Luo Shu. Following his order, many people moved immediately. The guns in their hands were aimed directly at Luo Shu and Hina, but the three of them didn't care. Shave. As Hina's figure flashed, she disappeared in the next second, and her body passed directly through the major. At this time, there was also an iron on the major's body. Prison restrained him and fell heavily to the ground. As for the Marines in the distance, Ingrid had already jumped up and killed them directly from the air. With a swipe of the big knife in Ingrid's hand, they immediately smashed these people out. After landing, the lives of these people were lost. Also went to most of them. And those who were not swept, also panicked and ran up at this time. Looking at his subordinates, he was directly killed after only one round. The major here was about to stare out his eyes. Looking back at Luo Shu and Hina, who looked at him condescendingly, the major also yelled. "You two fools, you really think you can nail me to death? I tell you, there is someone on our colonel. Even if you catch us, it's useless. When that big man takes action, how did you die?" "I don't know." Looking at Luo Shu and Hina, this person roared loudly. After hearing this person's words, Luo Shu and Hina looked at each other playfully. "Okay, let's talk about who is behind you," Luo Shu said to the man with a foot on his face. "You stand firm, I tell you, our cousin of Colonel Mouse is Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel. You are a little Commodore, a little Colonel, and dare to control Vice Admiral's family. I think you or I'm impatient to live." Following the man's roar, Luo Shu and Hina also glanced at each other. To be honest, they both saw a hint of shock in each other's eyes. They were definitely not afraid of flying squirrels, let alone flying squirrels, even a kainu, they would not be afraid, but they really did not expect that flying squirrels would be the person above the mouse colonel. You know, in their impression, flying squirrels are extremely rigorous people. Where there are people, there are rivers and lakes, where there are rivers and lakes, there is power. People have 7 emotions and 6 desires. Even in a small group, there will be situations where who is good and who does not deal with, but in naval headquarters is also like this. The power of naval headquarters can basically be divided into 3 parts. One is the Hawks, mainly Admiral Akainu, the most loyal vice admiral under his command, should be the Ghost Spider and the fighting dog Doberman, they tend to win the result. In other words, as long as you win in the end, some casualties are acceptable. For example, on the battlefield, if there are 100 civilians and 1,000 pirates mixed together, these people will not hesitate to order the firing. Although the death of 100 civilians is a loss, the elimination of 1,000 pirates is corresponding. Compared to victory, loss is not so important. The second is the moderates. They are mainly Zephyr and Qingzi. They are more inclined to catch the pirates. They will not take the initiative to kill the pirates, but will send them to impel down after catching them. And those with such thoughts, among the headquarters of Vice Admiral, are mainly Jonathan from Burning Mountain and G8 Fortress. But the biggest force is the lawful force. They will follow the instructions of their superiors to perform their tasks as perfectly as possible. Most Vice Admiral are like this. They do not stand in line, and there is no need to stand in line. Whoever is Marshal Marine, they will listen to whoever is. It's very simple. Flying Squirrels are also one of them. He is very rigid and will not be flexible. He will execute any order perfectly. However, if this person will indulge his family in colluding with pirates, Luo Shu and Hina would not believe it, but now this major is a red mouth. What White Fang said, there is no room for them not to believe it. Thinking of this, Luo Shu directly took out the phone worm and called the Marshal's office of Naval Headquarters, but before that, he didn't stop Ingrid from continuing to kill. Brum brum brum. Hey, this is Sengoku. The phone worm didn't ring a few times and was picked up by the other side, and then Sengoku's voice came over. As soon as the person on the phone said he was Sengoku, the major who was still struggling on the ground stopped moving for an instant, and cold sweat began to continuously emerge from his head. He didn't expect Luo Shu to find Sengoku directly. Sengoku, that was Marine's biggest boss, and now his mind was blank. Now he has only one feeling, he feels dead. Marshal Sengoku, it's me. Luo Shu said immediately after hearing Sengoku's voice. Oh, it's Ronaldinho, your ship has been built in the city of Seven Waters, and news has been sent to us. I am still wondering why you didn't pick it up. What's the matter if you call me? When Luo Shu called, Sengoku's voice became much easier. Marshal, it's like this. I'm on vacation in East Blue, and I just ran into an incident. The colonel of the 18th branch of the East Blue 178 branch. The mouse colonel colluded with the dragon pirates and allowed him to occupy his subordinates. More than a dozen villages took bribes from the bloody rule. Hina and Ingrid, and I came over after learning the news, but we were attacked by them. After subduing them, they said that their backing here was the Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral. It's about Vice Admiral, so I can only report to you. Although Sengoku's voice sounded very relaxed, Luo Shu had to make his mood not so good. He didn't tactfully say anything good, but directly reported the situation to Sengoku and heard Luo Shu. What I said, Sengoku on the other side of the phone was stunned. He knows the Flying Squirrel very well. It is difficult for him to imagine that such a rigorous and upright man would be a backer who colluded with the pirates to oppress the people. Bang! A loud bang came directly from the phone worm, showing that Sengoku was extremely angry at this time. I'll give you full responsibility for this matter. Bring me all related people and evidence back to the headquarters. Listening to Sengoku's almost gritted voice, it can be seen at this time. Sengoku is almost mad. You must know this. If it is exposed, it will not only hit Marine in the face. Hearing what Sengoku said, Luo Shu didn't say much, but after responding, he hung up the phone worm. Seeing Luo Shu hung up the phone worm, the major here was completely stupid, because he felt that he was really going to finish. Hina, arrest all the people in this Marine branch, and at the same time notify the 178 branch to send someone over. If there is any resistance, kill me. Yes. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Hina here immediately stood at attention. After a salute, she began to rush into the crowd. She perfectly and executed Luo Shu's orders, but anyone who still holds a weapon and is ready to resist, go up and kill directly. Suddenly, this branch can be described as a river of blood, and people are afraid of death. As those who did not participate, please kneel on the ground for the first time, and those who participated are also pregnant. He knelt on the ground with a fluke. But can they escape? Ha ha, are you kidding? Luo Shu's 99-level observation hockey. In less than half an hour, the people from Marine's 178th branch had rushed over. After the headed Langdon Bell Rear Admiral learned of the situation here, he almost didn't get angry. Originally, he was thinking about whether he could be transferred back to the headquarters or become a vice admiral. Now it seems that he would be grateful if he didn't get beaten up. When the people from the 178 branch arrived, Luo Shu handed it over to them temporarily, and then took Hina and Ingrid to the direction of Kokoja village. Marshal, you're looking for it. Knocked gently on the door, and the flying squirrel vice admiral walked in from the room with a serious face, and said respectfully as he looked at Sengoku, who was obviously a little gloomy. After Luo Shu hung up the phone, Sengoku almost yelled at the flying squirrel to come to his office immediately. With this attitude, even the rigorous flying squirrel was a little nervous at this time. But he thought for a long time, and he didn't find out what he had done recently that was controversial, so this made him a little bit confused by the second monk. I'm here to ask you, Colonel Mouse in Division 18 of East Blue 178 branch, who is yours? Sengoku said with his hands on the table, looking at the flying squirrel and narrowing his eyes. It's the cousin who is in the far room, and his grandfather and grandfather are brothers. Hearing Sengoku's words, the flying squirrel thought for a while and replied solemnly. Just admit it, you can temporarily suspend your job, and wait until his situation is investigated. When the flying squirrel confessed his relationship with Colonel Mouse, Sengoku was relieved, at least without quibbling, which is still familiar to him. Flying squirrel. Stop. Suspended. Marshal, can you let me know what happened? As soon as Sengoku opened his mouth, he suspended himself, even if it was a flying squirrel. Don't say you don't know. What did your cousin do? Looking at the flying squirrel, Sengoku felt that his fire was going out again. I really don't know Zai Sha. I haven't seen him and Sha and him for nearly 10 years. After thinking about it carefully, the flying squirrel knew that it should have happened to his distant cousin, but what was going on? He really doesn't know. Okay, then I'll tell you. This cousin of yours in East Blue colluded with the dragon pirates and gave more than half of his villages to the dragon for bloody rule. Everyone needs it every month. The money he paid for his life, and he took bribes from it, killed countless civilians, and persecuted countless families, and families broke down. According to him, his backer is you. Do you think you should be suspended? After sorting out the information in front of him, Sengoku threw it directly on the flying squirrel's face, and the flying squirrel heard what Sengoku said, and the whole person was dumbfounded, and he was shaking in surprise. He would never have thought that that person would dare to do so. Yes, I don't know. Hearing Sengoku's words, the flying squirrel suddenly knelt on one knee and said with a serious face. He would never have thought that his cousin would do such a thing. I know you don't know. Otherwise, you will not be suspended from your job now, but you will be arrested directly. But the investigation that should go is still going. You should withdraw and think about it. Who else is involved in this matter? About. Looking at the flying squirrel, Sengoku sighed. To be honest, Flying Squirrel is one of the old vice admiral that he is more useful in his hands. He has a strong combat power and a firm heart. He is a good player. Even if he does not have the potential to become admiral, it is not a problem to mix admiral's retirement qualifications with his military merits. Yes, they can even be sent to the branch beginning with G to be the base leader. But now, with this stain, it is estimated that his life will be over. Hearing Sengoku's words, the flying squirrel did not resist, because at this time his mind was constantly thinking about who it was that did the unforgivable thing in his own name. He doesn't believe that Colonel Mouse will do this and no one will report it. That means that someone has suppressed this matter. In Naval Headquarters, it seems that he is the only one who has the ability to do this, but he knows that he doesn't. Done. That's what the people around you do under the guise of your own name. Thinking of this, the flying squirrel clenched his fist uncontrollably. He must find out who that person was. He would rather die than do such a thing. When the flying squirrels left the Naval Headquarters building in despair, Luo Shu and the others had already arrived at the small island near the Kokasia village. As soon as they arrived, they heard a sound of fighting, coming from a building near the sea in the distance, and at this time, there was a warship parked there in the distance of that building. Looking at the serial number on the military ship, it was no surprise that this warship was the one that Colonel Mouse drove away. Look at the situation in the building at this time with the color of sight and hearing. Generally speaking, it is still good, because Zoro suffered much less damage than the original book, so he has already solved most of the murlocs at this time. Let Luffy and the dragon go head to head there. Don't worry about the building for the time being. Let's catch Colonel Mouse first. Since they were fine, Luo Shu was too lazy to clean up such mobs and directly ordered that the warship he was on quickly turned towards Colonel Mouse. Away from the warship. And the mouse colonel over there didn't know what happened at this time. He was still waiting for the evil dragon to be defeated before he would take the evil dragon's treasure by himself. When he saw Luo Shu and their boat coming over, he didn't care too much. After all, he was the biggest one in this ocean. So he let Luo Shu and their boat come to his side. But when Luo Shu, Hina, and Ingrid took the 178th branch of Marine and rushed into his boat with weapons, he felt that something was wrong. What are you going to do? I'm the rat colonel of the 18th Division of the 178 branch. I am now on a mission. What are you doing? Looking at Luo Shu in front of him, the rat colonel shouted with a serious face, but he finished. Later, he realized that the people here looked at him, as if they all revealed a look called joking. Colonel Mouse, if you have something to do, catch it. At this time, a person from the 178 branch who had worked with him after all, couldn't bear to see him like a fool, and said directly. After hearing this man's words, Colonel Mouse reacted, and sweat ran down instantly. You guys, you must be doing something wrong. With a glance around, Colonel Mouse walked slowly towards the back, and at the same time his hand directed towards the marine he had brought, but it was a pity. Hina didn't have the habit of calming the chaos again. An instant hand left the place and appeared behind Colonel Mouse. At this time, there was an iron prison on top of the mouse, which directly put him in place and fell down. Seeing that the Supreme Commander was arrested, Marine, who was brought by Colonel Rat, raised the gun for the first time, but it was the muzzle of a colleague in the 178 Marine branch that greeted them. Who dares to resist? Kill without mercy. Luo Shu also walked over at this time, stepping on Colonel Mouse's face, and at the same time said to the scum of Marine. Do you dare to hit me? Do you know who my brother is? Feeling the lines on Luo Shu's soles, Colonel Mouse roared loudly. Now he is really scared. Do you want to talk about Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral? He should be talking to Marshal Sengoku about you now. Hearing Colonel Mouse's words, Luo Shu also squatted down and looked at his stepped foot face, said jokingly. Are you really not going to say goodbye to them? That's your junior. Standing on Marine's boat, Luo Shu and the others watched singing and dancing in the Cocoa Village in the distance. Hina walked to Luo Shu's side and whispered towards him. He said. No, after all, first I'm Marine now, and they are pirates. If I go, they will be uncomfortable. Luo Shu smiled and knocked on the fence of the warship. After hearing what Luo Shu said, Hina just chuckled and said nothing. After all, at this time, they were not only surrounded by a few of them, but there were also people from the 178 branch. If Luo Shu and Luffy walk too close, it will not benefit anyone. Okay, return home. As Luo Shu's voice fell, the warship officially turned around and headed towards the original 18th Division. As night fell quietly, when the newspapers were scattered all over the world the next day, there were three major events in East Blue. One is that the Dragon Pirates group with the highest East Blue bounty was defeated by a new pirate group. Legend has it that this group is called the Straw Hat Pirates. They also defeated Admiral Click before that, so after studying, East Blue's highest bounty changed hands this morning. The leader of the Straw Hat Pirates, the Straw Hat Boy Luffy, bounty 30 million Baileys. The second thing is a relatively secret matter. The Rat Colonel of the 18th Division of the 178th Marine Branch of East Blue was removed. At the same time, the Major of the 18th Division and more than 30 people were detained. Don't think that you will accept bribes. There are only more than 30 people. These people are the ones who survived. Luo Shu started, but he was always unambiguous. The third thing is that the waves in East Blue are not big, but the waves in the world are a little bigger, that is, the world's largest swordsman, changing hands. As the most peaceful sea, East Blue can be said to be rare among pirates with a bounty of more than 30 million. What Shichibukai, what four emperors, 99.99% of East Blue people have not heard of. However, even if Click was chopped into a bird-like shape, he didn't know who Hawkeye was, so now that it appeared in the newspaper, Luo Shu defeated Hawkeye. This impact on the East Blue people is far less powerful than Luffy defeated the Dragon and Click. But this is different in Grand Line and New World. Although it has been more than half a year since Luo Shu debuted, none of the people he defeated were good. Charlotte Cracker, Charlotte Smoky, Charlotte Kata Curry from the BIGMOM Pirates, and then defeated again. With Hawkeye, although his hands were not contaminated with the life of a super strong, his strength was already worthy of recognition. There are already some people who regard Luo Shu as Marine's new hope. Many people in naval headquarters are saying that even if Luo Shu's strength is not comparable to that of 4 emperors, it is estimated that it can be compared to Admiral. Such a statement is very marketable in naval headquarters. This also made the original Admiral alternate T-Dolphin and Momoshige a bit embarrassed. But the most embarrassing thing is the T-Dolphin. After all, he and Luo Shu have played against Luo Shu, who can't face observation hockey, only half of the 6-style Luo Shu, he was actually suppressed. So it is foreseeable that Jaji's recent days at the headquarters will not be easy. However, these rumors did not bother Luo Shu. After escorting Colonel Mouse back to the branch, the escort was handed over to Rear Admiral, who was originally here. This can be regarded as an atonement for his merits. After all, he has the supervision, responsibility. Then they took a cruise and headed towards the city of 7 Waters. Another week passed in a blink of an eye. When Luo Shu, Hina and Ingrid once again set foot on the city of 7 Waters, he found Bingberg, the mayor of the city of 7 Waters, and he was waiting on the dock with his company's employees. As for him, watching Luo Shu get off the boat, they immediately greeted him. "Hello, you are Luo Shu, Commodore, I am the mayor Bingberg here. When you came last time, I was really sorry. I am not here. It is my responsibility to not take good care of you. Please don't take it off." Holding Luo Shu's hand, Bingshan said excitedly. Facing this enthusiastic iceberg, Luo Shu was a little at a loss. Because he doesn't quite understand, why is Bingberg so enthusiastic about him? In fact, this still means that Luo Shu's mentality has not changed. What kind of world is this? This is a war-torn world, and the modern Earth style is not popular here. It is not the party commanding soldiers, nor is it a capitalist society. Wealthy businessmen can override government officials. In this world, it is useless to have soldiers in hand, because personal force is too strong, so there are only real ones. The strong is the existence that controls this sea. Luo Shu seems to be a strong player at this level now in Bingberg, at least in the first half of the Grand Line. Bingshan first enthusiastically entertained Luo Shu and they had a good meal, and then went to see Luo Shu's boat in the afternoon. Logically speaking, Luo Shu's boat was repaired half a month ago. However, Bingshan did not stay idle for half a month. He took the initiative to spend some money to renovate Luo Shu's boat. When Luo Shu went to this boat, to be honest, he was very satisfied. This ship is built according to the Vice Admiral class of ships. The Vice Admiral class is the Buster Call class. Marine currently has the largest tonnage among the standard ships. However, regardless of the technological content, the size of the space, and the decoration on board, they are all very good. I don't know where Bingberg got it. Luo Shu doesn't like things that are too exaggerated, so the boat he built is top-notch in terms of comfort, but from the outside, you can't see much. After Luo Shu got on the boat, he looked around. The whole boat is divided into 4 floors. However, the bottom layer is not actually considered as one layer. Because it is very short, this is a prison. Prepared by the pirates. The floor above the prison is the marine floor. There are separate training rooms, toilets, bathrooms, dining rooms, reading rooms, recreation rooms, etc. The space is really not small, and there are 26 rooms, each of which can live 8. Marines, this is Marines. It should have been possible to live in 16, because this world is mainly the kind of bunk bed, but when Luo Shu came last time, he specially designed the kind of upper bunk that looks like a good university for sleeping, and the lower bunk is a bed with a desk, so there is more personal space. On the second floor is the fort and weapon room. There are a total of 32nd Gate artillery on the left and right. With the addition of the 5th Gate and the 3rd Gate, the naval battle can be described as extremely powerful. The first floor is the deck. Except for the deck, the rooms are all Luo Shu's. A huge room, plus a training center, separate dining room, bathroom, lounge. Are you really not staying here for a while longer? Bingshan asked him anxiously as he watched Luo Shu about to leave. To be honest, Bingshan really wants Luo Shu to stay in the city of 7 Waters for a while, so that he can gain Luo Shu's trust and become Luo Shu's friend, even if he is just a friend of wine and meat. because he knows that Luo Shu will definitely become a giant in the future. A good relationship at this time will be beneficial to him in terms of security and politics. But Luo Shu does not plan to stay here any longer. After only staying here for one night, Luo Shu and his group of 3 got on the boat the next day and headed for Annie's lobby. Although the boat is large, it is not very troublesome to drive. A lot of Vegapunk inventions have been added to this ship, such as steam engine, outer wheel paddle, and automatic rewinding and unwinding device. Although the ship is very large, it is not too difficult to control. Hina was in charge of sailing, and Ingrid was in charge of the chores, so she could barely handle it. After Luo Shu got up, he wandered around on the boat. In front of the iceberg, Luo Shu did not show that he was very interested in the ship. But now, his eyes on the ship are all golden light. This ship is really good. Except for the 3 floors underneath and the quite satisfactory cab, the space they live in is still very good. The huge room was built according to Ingrid's standards. It was very big and the bed was very large. Big. There are everything in the room, such as a big bed, wardrobe, coffee table, sofa, and a place for phone bugs next to it. The training room also has a complete set of things. There should be a lot of CP9. The separate dining room is large and the lounge is larger. Although there are live telephone bugs in this world, there is no corresponding TV or the like. Therefore, more entertainment facilities in the living room are just some chess and cards, but whether it is the huge sofa in the living room, the huge fish tank behind the sofa, or the side, Luo Shu was particularly satisfied with the wine cabinet and refrigerator. Even if he died in his previous life, he couldn't own such a ship. For now, Luo Shu is very satisfied. The ship sailed very quickly, and not long after, we arrived at Annie's lobby. Here, Hina's men have been waiting for a long time. As the warship entered the port, these people also boarded the ship. When these people started to visit the facilities on the ship, they were quite satisfied. Although it is said that Marines' ships can have some autonomous characteristics after they reach the Vice Admiral class, basically no one will change the living environment for the Marines. Generally, a Vice Admiral class ship must have at least 750 people as standard. However, Luo Shu gave these 750 people space to these people. It can be said that their personal space is still not big, but it is better than the people on other ships are more comfortable with special canteens, fitness rooms, no training on the deck, lounges, recreation rooms, etc. For this ship, these people are actually happier. Master Commodore, where is our next goal? After visiting the ship, the people on Hina quickly got acquainted with their respective locations and returned to Luo Shu. In fact, it is understandable if you want to come. Yu Gong and Marine respect the strong. Luo Shu is strong enough to overwhelm them. They will naturally not dissatisfy Luo Shu. You see, they were originally Hina's soldiers, but now Hina is Luo Shu's deputy. In fact, everyone can see that Hina is Luo Shu's woman. So they will be very convinced of Luo Shu both in public and in private, so there is no need to say more about this. Our target, Sabayati Islands. After hearing the crew's words, Luo Shu would think about it on the deck chair, and then said calmly. Yes, go to the Sabayati Islands, go straight ahead. After Luo Shu gave the target order to move forward, the Marines here immediately ordered them to adjust their sails towards the Sabayati Islands. After these people left, Hina just walked over. Should we not go back to the headquarters to report on our work? Touching Luo Shu lightly, Hina still gave Luo Shu a lot of face, and would never disobey Luo Shu's decisions in front of her subordinates, but in private, she still to remind Luo Shu. Do you remember what the underground gunhead of Han Nabal said? Hearing Hina's reminder, Luo Shu raised his head and looked at her. Naturally remember, but we can go after the debriefing is over. Seeing Luo Shu mentioned Han Nabal's matter, Hina also nodded. She naturally remembered what the person said, but there is no need to rush. No, you don't understand. Do you remember how Ingrid came? The Marshal wouldn't let me go to the Sabayati Islands because there are celestial dragons on it. No one knows what will happen, so this time I'm going to cut it first and play it later. Luo Shu interrupted Hina's words with a smile and shook his head, and glanced at Ingrid in the distance. Luo Shu said seriously. I see. Looking at Ingrid who was training in the distance, Hina didn't say much. In fact, she didn't have much to say. She also knew how Ingrid came, and Luo Shu also knew about it. In that incident, he who was supposed to be promoted Rear Admiral became Commodore. Although Luo Shu didn't care about this, it was obvious that he and Celestial Dragons had nothing to do with him. In order to balance the contradiction between Luo Shu and Celestial Dragons, Sengoku is most likely to prevent Luo Shu and Celestial Dragons from meeting, and Celestial Dragons basically will not go out except for the Holy Land Mariajoy, except when they go to collect heavenly gold. In addition to taking ahead, most of them are the farthest to go to the Sabayati Islands. In order to avoid Luo Shu and Celestial Dragons colliding, Sengoku is absolutely impossible to agree. And because Luo Shu knew this, he didn't go back to Naval Headquarters first this time, but went straight to the Sabayati Islands. It has been long enough to get the news, Luo Shu is also time to do it. It's over. In fact, he probably knows who is behind this matter, either Charlotte Linlin or Don Quixote Doflamingo. After all, the only people he offended were these two people. If it was before Luo Shu didn't learn observation hockey, if the two Luo Shu wanted to meet, they had to think about it. But now, Luo Shu really doesn't bother them. Combat experience is to learn from the battle. Although his hard power is now heinously strong, his soft power still has to keep up. As Luo Shu's warship left the Eni's lobby, they also headed straight towards the Sabayati Islands. He is not a person who hates his cubs. Sabayati Archipelago is actually an island, but it is not a real island. The entire island is made up of Yarkiman mangroves. Speaking of it, there are some mangroves that resemble the modern Earth. There is no land. It is not the soil that composes this island, but its huge trees, root. Only because the Sabayati Archipelago has been renovated and a lot of soil has been transplanted into the past, this has formed a small island where people live. And this time Luo Shu's goal is here. Bulu bulu bulu. Blowing the sea breeze, Luo Shu was lying on the deck chair, drinking the iced juice made by his chef, while enjoying the sea breeze while he was on the phone next to him. The worm also rang. Hey, this is Luo Shu. After answering the phone, Luo Shu shouted to the other side. Luo Shu, it's me. I heard that you have taken the boat, why didn't you come back? Hearing Luo Shu's voice, Sengoku's voice also came from the phone worm. Oh, Marshal, I'm going to try the boat. Luo Shu smiled when he heard what Sengoku said, then put the juice on the table and said with a smile. Try the ship. Where are you going to test the ship? Sengoku was taken aback when she heard Luo Shu's answer. Now that Naval Headquarters knew that Luo Shu defeated Hawkeye, it happened that Luo Shu was back, and Sengoku was still thinking about it. Do you want to discuss with Luo Shu and send him out on a mission? I heard that there are many pirates in Sabayati Archipelago, so I am going there now. Luo Shu said with a satisfied smile when he heard Sengoku's doubts. He is not satisfied with the state of Sengoku, but with the state of the people on his ship. It seems that my own strength, coupled with Haine's majesty before, really made these people very homely. He went to Sabayati Archipelago to say that it was illegal, but no one went to make a small report. This represents the people on his ship. Really loyal. What? Sabayati Archipelago? You, come back right away. When Luo Shu was going to Sabayati Archipelago, Sengoku here suddenly remembered the contradiction between Luo Shu and Celestial Dragons, so he called out loudly, Road. Don't worry, Marshal Sengoku, as long as the rubbish doesn't provoke me, then I won't trouble them. Okay, Marshal Sengoku, there is a pirate ship ahead of me. I'll hang up. Listening to Sengoku's roar, Luo Shu immediately smiled and said something, and then hung up the phone bug directly, but he didn't say nonsense, because there was indeed a pirate ship in front of them. Looking at that ship, Luo Shu was not needed. More to say, Hina had commanded their ship to kill, and the ship accelerated towards Sabayati Archipelago. But unfortunately, compared to the speed of the ship, these ships still using sails as their main power, and how Luo Shu is the opponent of the ship that already uses steam engines, the distance between the two is constantly shrinking at this time. The people on Luo Shu's ship were also constantly bombarding the ship with artillery. However, the attack power of artillery in this world is indeed weaker. Although a few of those shells really landed on the opponent's ship, 3 of them were dumb guns and did not explode, and the exploded rounds did not cause any damage to the ship. Serious injury. The more they chase, the closer they are to the Sabayati Archipelago. If they keep chasing like this, they must have already set foot on the Sabayati archipelago before Luo Shu's boat can catch up with these guys. When these pirates scattered into the islands, it was difficult to find them. Let me come. Seeing this, Luo Shu also got up from the recliner and glanced at the pirate ship that was cheering in the distance. He twitched the corner of his mouth slightly, and then his right leg went straight. With a flick, a blue slash instantly slammed towards the ship. In this world, power mainly has two branches. In addition to the development of devil fruit, the level of external power is mainly related to physical fitness. For example, when Luo Shu was a swordsman, the slash he threw out might be similar to Hawkeye's, or even stronger than Hawkeye's. But if the two of them are fighting the sword, it is estimated that Luo Shu will be finished in an instant. Now Luo Shu's physical fitness has improved to that of the great swordsman. Although there is still some gap in physical fitness with Yingyan, when Luo Shu and Yingyan confronted each other with their swords, Yingyan retreated. So the body is the capital of everything, and so is Tempest Kick. Although Luo Shu's Tempest Kick currently uses the same attack distance and range, its combat power is already much stronger than it was at the beginning. Those people didn't react at all, and Luo Shu's Tempest Kick had already killed him. With Tempest Kick rowing directly in the middle of their boat, the entire boat was instantly divided into two sections and fell to both sides. Some decisively jumped off the boat and swam toward the island, but more people were caught in the vortex caused by the sinking of the boat. Moonwalk. At this time, Hina jumped up suddenly, and after a few steps in the air, she headed towards the shore. Luo Shu said that if you want to kill them all, then you must kill them all. This is Luo Shu, the first battle since leading the team. As Hina jumped to the shore, some pirates who started swimming in advance also swam over. Looking at Hina wearing a marine cape, these people rushed over with their weapons. But to Hina, these people are just lambs waiting to be slaughtered. There is Hina in the front and Marine in the back. This pirate group, which I don't know what it is called, is really unlucky. Tap. When Luo Shu and the Marines set foot on the island, the pirates in the sea had been caught by the Marines. On land, there were fallen guys everywhere, and most of them had them. A black iron jail. I have confirmed my identity. It is the Dragon Pirates group. This is the owner of their leader's own Devil Fruit's ancient dragon form, Marcus Ferguson, with a bounty of 86 million Baileys. This is his deputy captain's sword, Raglan. When Luo Shu looked at these people, the Marine soldiers had already walked over with two people. One of the two people was still struggling. It seemed that it was the deputy captain. As for the captain, has lost consciousness. But looking at his torn clothes, it is not difficult to see that this guy should have been transformed just now, but he was directly resolved by Hina. Where is the branch of Marine? Looking at these two people casually, Luo Shu also looked around. At this time, not far away from him, there was a huge tree trunk with 72 written on it, except for these. Besides, there are many bubbles beside him, which are slowly drifting towards the sky. Marine's garrison base is on Island 66. Hearing Luo Shu's words, a Marine came over and said respectfully. There are still some key personnel on Luo Shu's ship. The person who is talking now is called Walsh David. He was originally the adjutant on Hina's ship. Now that Luo Shu is with Luo Shu, he naturally can't be the adjutant, because the adjutant is Hina. So now he is mainly in charge of the helm. He is the navigator on the ship, and he is in charge of the usual things of all sizes. In addition to him, there is also Rayleigh George. This is a captain, the main combatant, who used to be mainly dealing with the battle, is a swordsman, and he is also the one who admires Luo Shu most on the ship. Dewey Peters, the sniper and watcher on the ship, had very good eyes. Payne Silko, the same relative as the captain, the person in charge of the artillery on the ship. Although Jodie Joyce is a lieutenant junior grade, she is the most important person on the ship. Because she is the chef, maybe because Hina is a woman, she is not all male soldiers on the ship. Female soldiers. But to be honest, those female captains, ha ha. Don't look at the Hina, Tashigi, Momosugi and Crane in Marine. The female captains of Vice Admiral are all pretty. I naively think that there are many beauties in Marine. There are indeed beauties in Marine, but the number is really small. Most of the female Marines are about the same length as the males, because they will have combat effectiveness. Okay, you can take them to the Marine base, we'll just stroll around. Hearing Walsh David's words, Luo Shu nodded, and then walked forward on his own. Go, and Ingrid and Hina followed immediately. Master Commodore, yes. Hearing Luo Shu was about to leave, Walsh wanted to say something, but after thinking about it, he saluted him. Walsh knew that these people had not yet gained Luo Shu's trust, so they had better not ask too much about what Luo Shu was going to do. You said, how about I teach Walsh their 6 poses? After these Marines took these people away, Luo Shu also said to Hina as he walked into the island. This was also a sudden thought for him. If he trains all his subordinates to be masters like CP9, would that be a very interesting thing? Yes, the reason Luo Shu thinks this way is mainly because he is bored. In the past, Luo Shu always had some goals and ideas. Practicing swordsmanship when he hasn't practiced swordsmanship, and hockey when hockey hasn't practiced, but now that both swordsmanship and hockey have been practiced, and in the state of Luo Shu's system, he won't increase his strength if he doesn't practice. It won't drop, so he has no goals anymore. As for the problems with Conqueror's hockey and Devil Fruit, Luo Shu really didn't think too much about it, because Conqueror's hockey was born with it. Luo Shu was a hanging silk in his previous life. Although he seems to be at the top of the world in this life, he does not think he has Conqueror's hockey because he does not want to be a king. And Devil Fruit, just look, he is not as interested in Devil Fruit as the protagonists in the novels he has read before. Because of this thing, he is not sure whether Devil Fruit is related to skills or not. The second is too weak. He has to touch Devil Fruit that he has no way to refuse, so he will consider eating this thing. From the current point of view, he has nothing to learn, so it is also a good choice to shift the goal and teach his subordinates how to become stronger. But the most important thing is that he must guarantee the loyalty of his own marine. He doesn't have the habit of teaching others to his men, but how to ensure their loyalty is also a problem. So when Luo Shu said such a mouth, Hina did not answer it, because she knew that Luo Shu was talking for fun. If he really wants to teach, then he should already be acting now, instead of sending these people directly to the marine base. I have to admit that Hina knows Luo Shu very well. Luo Shu really just talks happily, but he does have this idea, but will it be implemented? Who knows? Sabayati Archipelago has 79 islands in 6 parts. Now they are on island number 70 to 79. This is mainly the hotel street. Although Sabayati Archipelago has the infamous celestial dragons, the business and tourism industry here is extremely developed. Almost nobles and royal families all over the world. I am very happy to come to this small island for vacations. 10 small islands are used to build hotels, but they are almost full. I have to admit that there are still many rich people in this world. And islands 60 to 69 are mainly the sites of Marine and the world government. Marine's stationing base is on island 66. In addition, there are many branches, offices, port of call of the world government here, entrances and exits, and so on. The islands 50 to 59 are the shipyards. The main thing is to ferry the film. If the ship wants to go to New World, it must pass through the underwater the Fishmen Island, and the ferry film is the only way to enter the Fishmen Island. Of course, besides, they also do repair and construction work. However, compared with the city of 7 waters, the shipbuilding skills here are a bit worse. The 20 islands of islands 30 to 49 can be divided into 2 parts. Islands 30 to 39 are for fun, bubble amusement parks, bicycle parks, etc., are all here. The islands 40 to 49 are for shopping. Of course, in addition to islands 40 to 49, other islands also have shops, but the most complete and best island is the island of 40 to 49. Here you can buy everything in the world government franchise countries, any country can be, even the things on Sky Island, here are also sold. Of course, the price is also very good. These 20 islands are also the most prosperous islands on the Sabayati Archipelago. And before the 30th, it was very chaotic, and it was called a place of lawlessness. Human trafficking shops, population auctions, and the sites occupied by the big pirates are all here. Don't think that you are going too far from the 72nd island to the illegal place. In fact, it is very close. The island here is in the shape of a national character. The island number 72 is on the left side of the national character, and the illegal place is next to him. It is the bottom line of the jade in the national character. Luo, it didn't take long for Shu and the others, probably less than an hour, before they came to the venue of their target this time, the population auction on Island 1. Cut. I'm just saying I'm not the protagonist. Luo Shu couldn't help muttering quietly when he stood at the doorway in the middle of this magnificent auction. Because of his observation hockey at this time, he can clearly hear the sound of the last first lot sold. If he is really the protagonist, then this auction should wait for him to arrive, whether it was the beginning or the last lot, and now he is here and the result is finished. It is clear that he did not take him as the protagonist. What? Of course, this is Luo Shu muttering to himself in his heart. The so-called protagonist in this world also has to observe the time. The villain is not always normal, waiting for the protagonist to be beaten by the protagonist. It can only be said that it was a coincidence, and Luo Shu obviously did not have such a coincidence. Think about the Ennie's lobby that he departed from the city of Seven Waters at 9 o'clock in the morning and arrived at about 12 o'clock in the noon. After picking up Heine's men, he came to Sabayati Archipelago, 21. Although they rode on the water dedicated to marine, it still took them about 5 hours to get to the Sabayati Archipelago, and it took them an hour to get to the island. It's almost 7 o'clock at 6 o'clock now. This time period is when the auction in the afternoon ends. When the auction in the evening has not started, it can only be said that Luo Shu was in a hurry. Forget it, if it's not the protagonist, then it's not the protagonist. After gently tidying up the shawl of justice behind him, Luo Shu walked towards the gate. Hey, this is a private place, but marine is not welcome. But when Luo Shu was about to walk to the door, the two people who had been standing outside the door also crossed their long knives, just blocking them. In front of Luo Shu. Or does the current marine need to buy slaves? Ha 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 ha. Hearing the words of his companion, another person said with a crazy smile. In fact, according to the world government system, slavery does not exist. But nothing is absolute, just like in the Tang and Han dynasties. Logically speaking, after Qin Shi Huang unified the 6 countries, China had already entered the feudal society. However, there were slaves in the Han and Tang dynasties, but at that time they were called slaves. Generally, it is the family of officials who committed the crime, or the family members of the rebels, captured prisoners, etc., and this type of people will be demoted as slaves. Such people existed until the Song dynasty, and until the Yuan eradicate the Song dynasty. After the barbarians in the north degraded almost all the Han to slaves, the Ming dynasty began to destroy the Yuan and then officially eliminated slavery. Military households were another one. This kind of statement, but it has nothing to do with slaves. The world of One Piece is similar to the ancient times, and it is the same as that in Europe in the 15th and 16th centuries. Predict. Although the law does not allow the capture of civilians as slaves, slaves still exist. In a legal sense, only pirates and offenders are allowed to be captured as slaves, but under the rule of the world's noble celestial dragons, in fact, as long as they are not blatant, no one will care about this. This is also because of what? When Marine Kizaru was ordered to hunt and kill the Murloc pirates, there was no sense of mercy, because it seemed to them that the Murlocs and the escaped slaves were actually not people, but objects. It is as if the famous black man in the United States went to court to prove that he was an individual and not an object. The black man in the United States lost the lawsuit because in that era, he was not a person but an object. The same is true in this era. The slave is not a person, but an object. Originally, if these slaves were only pirates or guilty people, that would be fine, but the problem is that there are still many civilians here who were captured by the slave teams. Marine is on this island, but they didn't dare to mess with celestial dragons and the people behind the auction house, so they could only turn one eye on this, which is why these two guys dared to mock Luo Shu so much. Unfortunately, Luo Shu was never a good person. He didn't come here to be a hero, but to ask who was trying to get himself. Hey, looking at these two people, Luo Shu smiled lightly, and suddenly swept over with one leg. The two didn't expect Luo Shu to actually dare to make a move, and that leg swept so hard. Above these two people's mouth, the huge power not only broke the two people's ribs, but also knocked them upside down and flew out, hitting the door of the auction house with a bang. With a huge force, the door was directly knocked open, and when Luo Shu looked down, he found inside the door. At this time, it was a ladder-shaped auction hall. Now it is full of people. Most of them are dressed in luxurious clothes. After hearing the voice, these people all looked behind, and when they saw Luo Shu's clothes, their faces were full of disgust. And at the end of this ladder, a man is standing on the auction stage, beside him there is a woman. This woman is a human in the upper body and a fish in the lower body. At this time, she is soaking in a huge fish tank, looking desperately. It's really a disgusting sight. Luo Shu snorted disdainfully looking at the people here, and then walked inside while talking. Where did Marine dare to run wild here? Asshole thing, your chief didn't tell you, where you can't go. I am Duke of the Kingdom of Kathrodi Mountain. I warn you to get out of here immediately, or I will make you unable to eat kabuto. Hearing what Luo Shu said, and looking at the figure he was walking in, the people over there stood up for the first time, and several of them yelled directly at Luo Shu. You stay outside. Without my news, no one is allowed to leave. If they want to leave, kill them. Ignoring these people, Luo Shu said to Hina and Ingrid behind him. When they heard a killing character popped out of Luo Shu's mouth, these people were a little panicked. Because they were not sure if Luo Shu had betrayed Marine, because it seemed that a rear admiral had betrayed Marine not long ago. If Luo Shu was a pirate now, they would not dare to gamble, but Hina and Ingrid knew. Luo Shu was protecting them. After all, what Luo Shu did today must have caused trouble. Someone must carry this thunder, and in order to avoid the thunder falling on them, he deliberately drove them out. Taking a serious look at Luo Shu, Hina and the others saluted Luo Shu and left, because they knew that Luo Shu must have done this for a reason, and they didn't think that someone here would be Luo Shu's opponent. Don't forget, he is now the #1 swordsman in the world. He, Marine, what's the matter with you here? You are so scared of my guests. Watching Luo Shu walk down slowly, the auctioneer on the stage couldn't help but whispered, and at the same time hid with a gesture, one person went directly to the background. You don't need to know that this is to ask someone to go. Luo Shu naturally sees his gestures, but Luo Shu didn't care. It seemed that it would be easier to gather all these rubbish together. Auction of civilians from member states of the world government, do you still ask me what I am doing? Looking at the mermaid in the next tank, Luo Shu's face showed a scornful smile. He, how do you know that we are not auctioning prisoners? Hearing Luo Shu's words, the auctioneer came back in complete disbelief. Yes, I am the Marquis of Dailysit of the Kingdom of Vichapekado. This Murloc is a prisoner of our country. When he heard the words of the auctioneer, a man sitting in the first row suddenly stood there. Got up, roared loudly. You count as a hanging hair. Luo Shu said with disdain after hearing this man's words. You. Seeing Luo Shu's contemptuous look, the man was going crazy. The mermaid can be judged. Apart from our Marine, there is only the Murloc Kingdom. Do you have the trial seal of our Marine or the Murloc Kingdom here? Turning his head, looking at the auctioneer, Luo Shu asked plainly. Boy, you are here to find the ballast, do you know who is behind this auction house? With his eyes wide, the auctioneer said to Luo Shu angrily. Having said that, it can already be proved that Luo Shu is here to find the ballast, so he doesn't need to make any excuses. Hey, you're right, I'm here to find the ballast. Tilting his head, Luo Shu looked at the man and said, and at this moment, a mess of footsteps came. From the back of the auction house, more than 30 big men suddenly appeared, all of them holding weapons in their hands, and they surrounded Luo Shu with fierce expressions. Haha, it's the armed forces of the auction house. Kill him, this guy, dare to threaten us. The Murloc is mine. Be careful when you kill him. You dare to hurt my precious Murloc. I want your lives. Seeing Luo Shu being surrounded, everyone below shouted loudly, and Luo Shu also looked at these people around him with a smile on his face. Someone is really looking for death. Yo ha, kid, blame you for being too stupid and naive. I don't need to know what you want to prove your righteousness, but now I give you a chance to kneel down honestly. I might give your chief should call and ask him to pick up your corpse. Looking at Luo Shu who was surrounded, the auctioneer over there screamed, looking at him, Luo Shu can now be said to have been it's over, the winning ticket is in hand. Oh, Siege Marine, I am taking action now, it should be considered a legitimate defense. Luo Shu moved his neck to the left and right. Luo Shu looked at these people and said with a smile. It's really, you're not ashamed, kill him. Seeing Luo Shu still look calm at this time, the auctioneer couldn't help but his face was cold, and as he waved his hand, the 30-odd people roared. To kill Luo Shu. Draw a knife and cut it. Looking at the people who rushed over, Luo Shu's mouth showed a smile. As the rein in his hand instantly unsheathed, a huge slash came out from him, drawing a knife and slashing. It's not just a move for close-range physical attacks. As long as Luo Shu is willing, it is easy to throw a slash. In an instant, a huge slash, centered on Luo Shu, spread directly to the surrounding area. The first to bear the brunt was the thugs who rushed over, and then the nobles. At this time, none of these nobles understood what was going on, and the slash had disappeared. At the moment when the slash disappeared, the first thing that happened was the fish tank not far away. With a few clicks, Luo Shu cut off the upper part of the fish tank, and the chain that the murloc originally tied and the bomb on his neck also fell at this time. As the fish tank and the water fell on the ground together, the huge shock also caused the thugs to fall one by one. Only then did the nobles and auctioneers see that each of these people had a Hungarian mouth. Huge wound. The blood was flowing out at this time as if it didn't need money. Even if the people in this world had excellent physical fitness, they couldn't stand the flow for a while. Killing you directly takes care of you too much. It must feel good to let you slowly bleed to death, Luo Shu said with a smile while holding a knife and looking at these people. He is Luo Shu, Marine Commodore Luo Shu. After hearing what Luo Shu said, the talents then reflected who Luo Shu was. It's him, the man who defeated Hawkeye. My God, what is he doing? Why did he come? Luo Shu Commodore, Luo Shu Commodore. After hearing that it was Luo Shu, the nobles became even more flustered. If it was some other general, with these people, they might be able to withstand the pressure and crush their opponents. But who is Luo Shu? Who does he need to give face? Just the title of the world's #1 swordsman, naval headquarters can only be infinitely close to him, unless he kills Mariajoy now and makes a big fuss, otherwise, naval headquarters will settle everything for him. These people knew right now that they had kicked the iron plate, and some timid people were already running to the door, but when they came to the door, Hina and Ingrid also appeared in front of these people. Looking at Hina and Ingrid, these people gritted their teeth. I feel that I am a nobleman. Maybe they don't do anything to me, but it is a pity that they are greeted by the fists and feet of these two people. Bang 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 bang. A series of painful sounds sounded. These people were directly beaten out and fell heavily to the ground. This also made other nobles more worried. Could it be that Luo Shu really wanted to kill them? However, Luo Shu did not care about these nobles at this time. He didn't care if these nobles died, but he slowly came to the auctioneer. What are you going to do? Do you know who is behind this auction house? Seeing Luo Shu getting closer and closer, the auctioneer kept backing away. Of course I know, Disco, the person behind you should be Shichibukai Don Quixote da Flamingo, but do you think I care? Luo Shu smiled disdainfully, and Luo Shu walked towards the auctioneer, knowing his back who is the person. It is because Luo Shu has read the original work and knows his name, because it seems that Luo Shu has this name on his head. The detective eye is also useful. Report, the latest news from Sabayati Archipelago. Luo Shu Commodore arrived at Sabayati Archipelago at 5 o'clock this afternoon, captured members of the Dragon Pirates, and then went to the auction site on Island 1. All the nobles are stuck in the auction room, and they seem to hurt people. As the phone worm on Sengoku's desk rang, there was a voice from someone in the Sabayati Archipelago Marine Observation Department. I knew it would be no good for this kid to go to Sabayati Archipelago. Call Kizaru to see me right away. Sengoku felt his head hurt as soon as he heard the news from the phone worm. Soon after putting down the phone worm, a stream of light flashed, and Admiral Kizaru had already appeared in front of Sengoku's office, opened the door lazily, and looked at Sengoku. Yo, Marshal Sengoku, what's the matter with the old man? Kizaru sat lazily on Sengoku's sofa, and Kizaru said to Sengoku with a wretched expression. Now, you go to Sabayati Archipelago right away, give this appointment to Luo Shu, and then let him go to New World right away. Looking at Kizaru's appearance, Sengoku also threw an appointment. After Kizaru took it, he looked at it. At a glance. The above appointment is like this. Luo Shu was appointed as major, and he immediately went to Marineg 5 branch to station in New World. Oh, it's Luo Shu, Nowadays young people are really terrifying. He is only 21 years old. He is already the world's largest swordsman. Such a life, it's so pitiful. He is so young, he has no goal to strive for. Seeing that the appointment was for Luo Shu, Kizaru laughed wretchedly again. However, the subordinates were not slow, holding the appointment, and walked out of the marshal's office. Following his order, a battleship in the marine port also slowly left the pier and headed towards Sabayati archipelago. At this time, Luo Shu has come to the disco. You still dare to do this. Marine and Doflamingo are in an alliance. He is Shichibukai. If you have broken his business now, he will not let you go. Hearing Luo Shu knows that this is Doflamingo, the place where he still dared to make trouble, the disco couldn't help being a little confused, and then shouted at Luo Shu loudly. I think you have a problem with your brain. Doflamingo is far worse than Dracul Mahawk. Do you think that I who defeated Dracul Mahawk will care about Doflamingo? Luo Shu said amusedly while looking at the disco. This. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the sweat on the top of the disco's head began to madly. It seemed that it was such a rationale. In terms of combat effectiveness, it seemed that Doflamingo was not his, so what should I do now? Trouble, Dao. Want you to know who I am. Two crouched down, Luo Shu looked at the disco and asked with a smile. Of course, Luo Shu, the newest swordsman in the world. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the disco nodded. He really didn't recognize it just now. After all, he had only seen Luo Shu's photos and his information. But now Luo Shu knows who it is as soon as he does it. It's easy to know who I am. Then you should know that this head of mine is now worth 100 million. Don't say you don't know, the news comes from you, so now you tell me who spent it. This money, I may let you go. Luo Shu patted this person's face, and said to him with a smile. Go to hell. Hearing Luo Shu's words, the disco moved back with a tangled expression, but at this moment, suddenly a trivial circle of a trivial slave appeared in his hand, directly towards Luo Shu. Threw it over, and at the same time he threw it over, he had already jumped behind him, and also pressed the explosive button. With a loud noise of boom, a group of flames ignited above the auction site, and the area covered by the explosion was where Luo Shu was located. Seeing this scene, the nobles on the sidelines couldn't help but laugh with excitement. When they got up, although they didn't dare to speak out, they felt that Luo Shu was dead this time, and they all used this collar to deal with their slaves. The amount of explosives is not so strong. Luo Shu's head-on hit is half dead if he is not dead. However, considering that Hina and Ingrid were still there, they didn't have any changes. When some people turned their heads and looked at Hina and Ingrid, they realized that they seemed to have no reaction at all, as if none of the hits were hit. Luo Shu is average. Just as these people were wondering, it suddenly seemed that some force had directly rushed through the smoke and hit the disco's right leg over there. He only heard a bang. The disco's right leg exploded to pieces, and he fell to the ground feebly. As the smoke pierced through the smoke became confused, and the breeze blew up. Blow, the smoke dissipated. Luo Shu was still Luo Shu, not even one of his hair was broken, but his body was covered with a layer of black at this time. As the black thing disappeared, Luo Shu appeared in front of everyone again. Dover, help me. As Luo Shu walked towards the disco also took out a phone bug from his arms and immediately pulled it out. The phone worm was quickly connected, and then the phone worm's face changed to Doflamingo's look, but listening to the screams of the disco, Doflamingo did not change anything. Oh, called out your master. Okay, let me ask him directly. Looking at the disco, Luo Shu walked behind him and stepped directly on his back. When Luo Shu screamed, Luo Shu used his scabbard to pick the phone worm from his hand into his own hand. Looking at the face that still looked like Doflamingo, Luo Shu smiled. Who are you? Me, I'm the man you are going to spend 500 million to kill. With a smile, Luo Shu also said to the voice on the other side of the phone. Oh, Luo Shu. Hearing Luo Shu's voice, Doflamingo seemed to think of something, and that was what Luo Shu wanted. Admit it. Now that I admit it, wash my neck and wait for me. Luo Shu squinted and hung up the phone, but at this moment Doflamingo spoke again. Ha ha ha, offer a reward to Marine, I don't have such a hobby, but if you come to me, I might tell you who is going to buy your life. Hearing Luo Shu's words, Doflamingo also said, I will ask from your mouth, but then, you may only feel the lines on the soles of my shoes. This time Luo Shu didn't give Dover Duo a chance to speak, so he hung up the phone. Then he took the knife, and now there is no longer any sense of existence. Hey, untouchable, why didn't you kneel when you saw me? Just as Luo Shu was about to swing his knife, suddenly an unpleasant voice came out from outside. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.